Great American Landowner. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 345. Received it and asked Zhou to return it. He Jiang and his girlfriend Jiang Yi's car had already arrived outside the community where Yuji lived. However, the security work of this community was done well. They had to persuade them to enter. He Jiang even gave his driver's license and ID card to the security guard, and then they were allowed in. Jess, don't worry, I'll be at his house soon. He Jiang's mobile phone was now using Bluetooth earphones, and he could talk to Zhou even with a fashionable Leifeng hat. Hey, I know, brother I really trouble you now. Although Zhou was not in a very good mood at this time, he had to go there in the middle of the night for his own business, especially in snowy weather. He had nothing to say about He Jiang as a brother, and it all depended on his actions in the future. You look down on me, don't be so polite. He Jiang said to the phone with a little hesitation. Jiang Yi looked at this man with a slightly complicated heart. His personality is good. She didn't ask about his life in the past. As long as he follows his words and lives a down-to-earth life with her, it's fine. But sometimes he is just too loyal to his brothers, but this also shows that he values feelings. Speaking of good and bad, she really has a hard time choosing. Just like this moment, a friend called and said something happened. He ran out in the middle of the night in the snow without saying a word. Yee, slow down. It's a bit slippery over there. Come to my side. He Jiang pulled his girlfriend over and let her walk to his side. Brother, he is really something. Even my sister-in-law came with me. I'm really a brother. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Brother will be here soon. Wait for me to go up to the elevator and knock on the door. He Jiang interrupted Zhou words and spoke first. After another setback, Sister Yu, who He Jiang had been calling for a long time, finally came out to open the door. But she was wearing pajamas in the middle of winter, her face was as pale as a ghost, and her eyes were swollen like goldfish. Jiang Yi couldn't help but scream loudly when she saw it, which woke up He Jiang and Yuji, who were still a little confused. What's wrong? What's wrong? Zhou was not at the scene, so he could only ask anxiously. Then the cold wind blew when the door was opened, and Yuji came against the wind. He Jiang hurried forward to help her, and then he supported her. Her body is so cold, and her face is so pale. I don't know what this woman is thinking. Yee, call the hospital quickly. He Jiang said very quickly, and then turned to his girlfriend and said, Oh, got it. Jiang Yi was awakened at this time. She thought she saw a ghost just now. Brother what's wrong? Is Yuji in danger now? Zhou was a little anxious, and he didn't care about being calm at all. I don't know either, but an ambulance has been called. I'll go with you now. Don't worry, we are here. Don't worry, you don't have to worry. He Jiang picked up Sister Yu and walked into her room, turning on the light. Jiang Yi finished the call and said the address. He took a look inside and saw a coat, followed by gloves, thick socks and a hat. He took her life equipment with him first. Fortunately, Jiang Yi finished the call quickly and came to help He Jiang, which saved him from embarrassment. Humph, it's a good thing I came here, otherwise he would have thought of something when he looked at this vixen-like woman. Jiang Yi was still thinking secretly while busy, but she was a little wary of this vixen-like woman in her heart. Although she looked older than herself, her mature charm was really tempting, and it could make people instinctively ignore how old this woman was. I don't know how his brother could go to the United States without any worries. He could go to such a far place without any worries with this vixen-like woman. After a while, the ambulance drove into the community, and He Jiang and Jiang Yi hurriedly followed the ambulance. He didn't even care about his car and ID card, but the security guard had seen everything and wanted to return the things to him. But He Jiang and Jiang Yi didn't say anything nonsense. After putting Sister Yu on the ambulance, they asked the ambulance not to delay and drove to the hospital quickly. Don't worry, it's okay. He Jiang comforted Zhou. We are taking care of her, don't worry too much. Zhao Jixi also hurriedly said a few more words to He Jiang. Although he and Sister Yu were just a dead relationship, this woman seemed to have once been pregnant with his child. Although the child may not be there now, he still wants to go and see her to feel at ease. Zhao Jixi turned around and looked at the old lady. Master, I may have to go back to China first. Please help me take care of the farm. Well, if you are in a hurry, go back quickly. The girl is probably injured. Damien is cold all over. She is probably cold. You should go back and take a look. Bring me the medicine I prescribed. The effects of these medicines are very good recently. The old lady nodded and said to Zhao Jixi. Kao had already caught up with him. Boss, the plane ticket has been booked. It is the nearest flight. As for the visa, I have helped you solve it in the name of business. We can leave for China now. Kao hurried over and said to Zhao Jixi. Zhao Jixi looked at Kao in surprise. He didn't expect that the security consultant was really good this time. He solved his own problem so quickly. Ah, you came at the right time, man. He hugged Kao excitedly. This is what I should do, boss, Zhou said with a smile. Then he looked at his watch. Boss, I think if we don't charter a plane to San Francisco, we may miss this flight. We. Zhao Jixi looked at Zhou in surprise. Yes, we. As this is my first time to go abroad as you hired me, I think as your personal security consultant, I have the full obligation to protect your safety. Now I'm the only team member here, so I'll go first, Zhou said seriously. But your daughter, and Kamixu's. It's okay, Jess. We all think Zhou should go with you. I don't want his job to just accompany his wife and take care of the children. Kamixu also followed after hearing the noise, and now she also said to Zhao Jixi. Since several people said so, Zhao Jixi didn't say anything more. It is definitely a face-saving thing to have a 2-meter tall and strong bodyguard. If there are more people in the future, it will be even more interesting. Okay, let's go quickly, Zhao Jixi said quickly. He didn't have time to pack his clothes and other things. He just went out with light luggage. Of course, he still remembered to bring his bank card. Besides, there were several cards in the space with money in them. If there was not enough, he could just take it out. Zhou drove to Merst Airport. Zhao Jixi called United Airlines and asked them to charter a small plane in Merst and fly directly to San Francisco International Airport. Zhao Jixi had been their VIP member for a long time, so if he wanted to charter a plane, the procedure was very simple. He just called the ground staff at Merst and told them that Zhao Jixi didn't even need to pay and could get on the plane directly. Anyway, they would send the bill to his accountant by email. Although Merst is a small airport, it looks very big. Zhao Jixi and Zhou got on the plane directly and got off at San Francisco International Airport soon. The people below were waiting for them there. Under the guidance of the ground staff, he and Zhou quickly arrived at the plane that was to leave this time. They walked through the VIP channel and quickly arrived in the first class cabin. Finally we made it, Zhao Jixi sighed after he sat down. There are still a few minutes before takeoff. Boss, there was no need for us to be so anxious just now. Maybe, but it's really troublesome that this is not my own plane. If I had my own plane, I could take off whenever I want. Why would I have to worry about how to rush now? Those who are late can't get in, and those who are in time have to wait on the plane. Zhao Jixi complained to himself twice. When he got on the plane, Zhao Jixi's mood was much calmer. He was no longer as anxious and irritable as before. Sister Yu, this is. Hey, some things are really fate. I was thinking of scolding her, but without the child, it would be Sister Yu who would suffer more. Zhao Jixi gave up the suggestion. More than 10 hours. Sometimes it was very fast, and sometimes it felt very slow. Regardless of speed, Zhao Jixi arrived at the capital airport. However, he felt a little uncomfortable with the cold wind just after coming out, and Kaiwa was almost the same. In fact, he and Zhao Jixi wore similar clothes. According to the weather in California, Zhao Jixi had never worn any thick clothes, and he really couldn't stand it without thick clothes. Wow, mom, why are those two uncles over there wearing summer clothes? A child with his mother pointed at them and said. The child's mother looked over when she heard it and really saw two men still wearing summer clothes. This was a bit confusing. She really didn't know how to explain to the child. Should she tell the child that these two people were complete idiots? It seems to be winter now. They actually dare to dress like this. They are really a bit confused. Mom, what happened to those two uncles? The child looked at the mother with innocent eyes, hoping that she could tell him why. Chapter 346. Too sleepy. Don't decide on this chapter yet. I'm still typing. But your daughter, and Camille's. It's okay, Jess. We all think that Joe should go with you. I don't want his job to just accompany his wife and take care of the children. Camille also followed after hearing the noise, and this time she also said to Jay Chou. Several people said so, and Jay Chou didn't say anything more. It is definitely a very face-saving thing to bring a 2-meter tall bodyguard with a tall and strong man. If there are more people in the future, it will be even more interesting. Okay, then let's go, Jay Chou said quickly, and there was no time to pack clothes and other things, so he went lightly. Of course, he still remembered to bring his bank card, not to mention that there were several cards in the space, and there was money saved in them. If it was not enough, he could just go out and take it out. Joe drove to the Merst airport, and Jay Chou called United Airlines and asked to charter a small plane in Merst and fly directly to San Francisco International Airport. Jay Chou has long been their VP member, so if he wanted to charter a plane, the procedure was very simple. He just called the ground staff at Merst and told them that Zhou didn't even need to pay and could get on the plane directly. Anyway, they would email the bill to his accountant. Although Merst is a small airport, it looks very large. Zhou and Joe got on the plane directly and got off at San Francisco International Airport very quickly. The people below were waiting for them there. Under the guidance of the ground staff, he and Joe quickly arrived at the plane that was about to leave this time. They walked through the VIP channel and quickly arrived at the first class cabin. Finally made it, Zhou sighed after sitting down. It will take off in a few minutes. Boss, there is no need for us to be so anxious just now. Maybe, but it's really troublesome that this is not my own plane. If I have my own plane, I can take off whenever I want. Why should I worry about how to rush now? Those who are late can't get in, and those who are in time have to wait on the plane. Zhou complained to himself. When he got on the plane, Zhou's mood was much calmer. He was not as anxious and irritable as before. Sister Yu, this is... Hey, it turns out that some things are fate. I wanted to scold her, but it was probably Sister Yu who suffered more without the child. Zhou gave up this suggestion. 10 hours. Sometimes it was very fast, and sometimes it felt very slow. Regardless of speed, Zhou arrived at the capital airport. But he felt a little uncomfortable with the cold wind when he just came out, and Kyo was almost the same. In fact, he and Zhou wore similar clothes. According to the weather in California, Jay Chou has never worn any thick clothes. Now he really can't stand it without thick clothes. Wow, Mom, why are those two uncles wearing summer clothes over there? A child with his mother pointed at them and said. The child's mother looked over and really saw two men still wearing summer clothes. Suddenly she was a little confused. She really didn't know how to explain to the child. Should she tell the child that these two people are completely idiots? It seems to be winter now. They dare to wear like this. They are really a bit confused. Mom, what's wrong with those two uncles? The child looked at the mother with innocent eyes, hoping that she could tell them why. Jay Chou and Kyo chose to look at the eyes of the people around them directly and hurried to the outside of the airport. After asking around, they walked into a clothing store selling branded clothing. Without looking at the price, Jay Chou just bought a set of clothes casually. However, due to his height, it was difficult for Kyo to buy clothes, so he bought a military coat on the street and put a Lei Feng hat on his head. Kyo didn't seem to mind. With the military boots and camouflage pants he wore, he had a strange charm. Zhou looked at his bodyguard, or security consultant, and had an urge to laugh. However, both of them were in a hurry now, and the next flight was about to leave. After buying clothes, they hurried back to the airport to take another flight. They flew straight all the way to the city, where Sister Yu was. They stopped a taxi, and under the strange look of the taxi driver, Zhou took Kyo in. Master, let's go to XXX hospital. Hurry up, we are in a hurry. Yes, yes, drive faster. Kyo's Chinese is not very good, but now he speaks standard Chinese. This taxi driver is different from the taxi drivers in the capital. He doesn't like to talk. He just drove the car to the place Zhou Jixi reported. He wanted to ask something, but now it was unnecessary. She just didn't like chatting. Last night, after sending Sister Yu to the hospital, the two felt relieved. Later, the doctor came out and said that Sister Yu's condition was a bit complicated. First, she had a miscarriage, and her body was not very good to begin with. Now she has caught a cold. As she spoke, the female doctor looked at He Jiang with a suspicious look, which made him very depressed. It's none of my business. This is my brother's woman. You men are really something. Don't you know how to care about women? She had a miscarriage, so her body is relatively weak. You don't know how to care about female comrades, and you let her catch a cold for so long. The female doctor said to him a little angrily. Yes, 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 I also think what you said is very reasonable, doctor. I will definitely educate him later. What has happened to him? He Jiang said to the doctor with a little respect. Well, but I have one thing to tell you. Compared to these physical problems, I suspect she has some mental problems as well. The psychologist inside is doing a small test now, and we'll know the result soon. Mental problem? Jiang Yi muttered consciously. She felt that this vixen had some problems since last night, but she was too busy at that time, and didn't delve into the issue in detail. Quick update: Pure Text Chapter 347 in the ward. In the hospital ward, Zhou Jixi didn't get a separate single room, so the best one at this time was this two-person ward. Fortunately, there was also a woman with a good temperament lying next to him, who was probably in her 30s, and was considered a very attractive young woman. At least when Zhou Jixi came in, he couldn't help but glance at her, and sometimes he would look at her inadvertently. So the old ancestors said that food, sex, and nature are definitely one of the most correct interpretations of human nature. In addition, he didn't believe in the theory that human nature is good. Children will only act according to their instincts. There is no distinction between good and evil. These concepts are also acquired. The winter in Hulanbu City is also very cold. Fortunately, in the colder areas, there is heating supply, and the pipelines are also laid throughout the city. In addition, the environment of this two-person room is not bad, so Zhou Jixi just sat in front of the bed in a single piece of clothing. Sister Yu was still lying on the bed with a pale face, and she couldn't see the beautiful and charming face of the past. Summary: when the cannon fodder bosses met on a narrow road, even the red lips that Zhou Jixi liked so much no longer thought about it as before. Boss, I bought some food, you should eat some too. Kyo didn't know where to buy delicious food, so he asked a famous hotel nearby, gave him some money, and asked them to deliver it. Of course, there was no problem with the hotel making money, and they often took this kind of external business. Let them order a set meal that can be delivered. The key is to have more meat and more. As for whether it would be too much, he had seen Zhou Jixi's appetite, so he would not have any concerns about it. The hotel delivery guy went to the cafeteria when he arrived at the hospital, but they said that no dean or director wanted to treat guests today, so maybe they delivered it to the wrong place. Several delivery guys looked at each other, took out their phones, and called Kyo back, and then they realized that it was a patient's room. After arriving, they saw the foreigner who came to pay. Under his heavy accent, several people understood that they were going to eat inside. Then he was seen reporting something in English to a man who was smaller than him but also sturdy, with yellow skin and dark hair. Zhou Jixi turned his head and looked at a few people. "Excuse me. No, this is our job," said one of the leading guys. Zhou Jixi looked around after he finished speaking and found that the place was not really very big, and if it was placed on the table, it would be a bit unfair to the person next to it, not to mention that the table was really not big. So he could only say, "You brought disposable tablecloths?" "Yes, we brought them when we came out." "That's it. Just lay it on the ground. Just lay it on the ground in front of the bed." Zhou Jixi pointed to that position and said to them, "Ah." Several of them were obviously surprised, but the leading guy was obviously professionally trained. He nodded politely. He also pretended to be polite and said a few words just to avoid causing displeasure to the customers and to quickly determine the location to be placed. Hurry up, be careful, Zhou, you and Zhou go and lay out the tablecloth, and remember to put some famous wines on the side, just like during a picnic. Then he opened the square takeaway boxes one by one, and took out the stacks of dishes. Because they were packed, some of the dishes could not be used, but even if they were reduced versions, he took out his gloves, and was able to take out accessories one by one, spliced them on the plates, and quickly formed large patterns. With the exquisite dishes, Zhou suddenly thought he was eating in a hotel. Time passed in a short while, and he had already prepared several plates of decorated dishes. Zhou wanted to say these words, but they were stuck in his throat, and could not be said. Wow, it's just great. Kao was also amazed at the sight, and couldn't help but sigh. Then he pointed his finger at the service staff and said, "You are very good, so professional. Thank you for your compliment. Do you need us to serve you here, or just notify us to collect the dishes later?" It was the young man who said, "You guys come to collect the dishes later. It seems that we really don't need any service now." Zhou shrugged his shoulders and said to him, "Okay, boss." After all, the ward was not big, and the fragrance filled the room. The woman lying next to him also woke up. "Oh, sister, you are awake too. I really disturbed us," Zhou said to the woman politely. The woman's eyes were a little dull. She didn't even turn her head back to him. She opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling. I don't know what she was thinking. Zhou felt that he seemed to have bad luck. People ignored him. Although he was a little unhappy, he was in the wrong after all. There was such a big table of people eating in this two-person ward. Zhou saw that she ignored him, so he didn't make trouble for himself. He turned his head and ignored him. "Kao, you should eat something quickly. We have been on the plane for such a long time. Although we ate a little on the plane, we haven't eaten for 2 meals so far." "Okay, boss, I won't be polite then." Kao saw Zhou speaking, so he just took something and put it on the ground and then started eating. Zhou did the same, just took something and put it on the ground casually. Although the heater was on, the cold on the ground was still very heavy, and Zhou didn't want to enjoy the treatment of being left out. Kao ate very quickly, and of course he couldn't use chopsticks. He wore a disposable glove and ate directly with both hands. Although Zhou used chopsticks, he picked up the food accurately again and again. It was as if there was a machine in his mouth. After chewing it a few times, he swallowed it. The food placed there at this time was almost decreasing at a visible speed. I don't know when the woman played this side and took a look, and she never looked away. She kept staring at Zhou who was eating, but I don't know if she was staring at him or at the food. Zhou had noticed it a long time ago, but he ignored her. "Fuck, even if you are hungry, I won't give you food. Do you really think I'm the kind of person who will give you another face after being slapped? HMPH, just starve." Zhou thought secretly in his heart, but not long after, he felt his ear as if it was touched by a slightly cold hand. He turned his head and saw that it was Sister Yu's hand, which was grabbing his ear at this time, but because he was still sick, he had no strength. Zhou quickly put down the big lamb chop he was chewing and said gently, "You're awake. Why didn't you say anything?" He slowly stood up and took off his gloves by the way. He sat on the chair behind him, looking at Sister Yu who had opened her eyes and looked at him. Her face was still a little pale, and so were her lips. He grabbed her cold hand with his warm hand, wanting to give her more warmth. "It's cold outside, put your hands back in the quilt." Zhou looked at her and said something. Sister Yu looked at him tenderly, shook her head childishly, and held Zhou's hand even harder. "Don't worry, I won't run away. Be good, it's warm inside." She wanted to put her hand in, but at this time, Sister Yu suddenly tried not to go in, looking at him with tears in her eyes and biting her mouth. Zhou's heart twitched for no reason, and the strength in his hands softened a lot. He rubbed his hands on her hands instead. "Okay, we can't not put it in. I can't rub it warm for you. As long as you are not afraid of peeling, then I will rub it." Sister Yu looked at Zhao Jixi and shook her head at him, with a look of I'm not afraid, and a bit of fear, and a look of try it, if you rub it. You don't know that getting sick is like becoming several years younger, and you look more childish than me. Zhao Jixi said to her with a smile. Sister Yu looked at him with a smile, and her eyes showed that what were you doing just now? You did such a childish thing. You didn't even see that the sister was still a patient, and you ate a lot in front of her. How could you not feel ashamed? Zhao Jixi felt a little embarrassed when she saw him. I didn't mean it. Okay, don't look at me like that anymore. I'm ashamed. Zhao Jixi pinched Sister Yu's hand and said with a little dissatisfaction. Sister Yu moved, as if she wanted to get up. Remember to get up? Zhao Jixi asked quickly, and Sister Yu nodded. He took out a hand and pressed the button on the bedside, and then the bed began to adjust automatically. Then he pulled the sheet on Sister Yu's body to prevent Xia Feng from running in. The woman looked at the couple in front of her with a complicated expression. She didn't know what the relationship between the two people was, but the man's concern and care for the woman could not be deceived. Although the woman on the bed was well maintained, she was obviously about the same age as herself. She was really envious of having such a man to take care of her and show concern for her. The two of them were so affectionate that they could not care about the lady next to them. Zhao Jixi looked at Sister Yu with concern. She enjoyed this feeling very much. Even the sadness and depression in her heart just now became much relieved. It was as if a dark cloud in her heart had faded away. Chapter 348 Grandfather and Granddaughter. Outside the Lishan Villa community in the capital, there were 3 figures, one old and 2 young, wandering around. The old man suddenly said to a slightly older girl, "Girl, are you really talking about this place? We have been waiting here for a few days, but we haven't seen the man who bought my chicken." The non-mainstream girl opposite bit her mouth with her black nails. "It can't be wrong. I followed him that day and saw the uncle go in from here. How come I don't see him now? This can't be possible," the girl said with a puzzled and unconvinced look. The slightly younger girl had 2 ponytails, and her little face was rosy, but looked very delicate. Although her clothes looked a little rustic, they were very clean and tidy. She didn't look like the kind of child who made people hate her, and felt a little dirty all over. At this time, she said to the old man, "Grandpa, let's not wait here. The farm work at home has been delayed for several days, and we haven't fed the chickens and ducks yet. It's not good to always ask Uncle Lei Zheng next door for help," the girl said while exhaling mist. The old man, who usually listened to his granddaughter, got stubborn at this time and said to the little girl, "You can't leave. I must find that man and ask him how he could be so heartless to abandon you. How can he be a father like him? He doesn't care about the woman who has given birth to a child, and he doesn't care about the man either. Then why did he give birth to a child? He has the guts to give birth to a guy who can't raise him." The old man blamed himself more and more as he spoke. "It's also my fault that day. I clearly felt that he seemed very familiar, but I just couldn't remember why. As a result, I went back and thought about it for a few days before I remembered that he looks almost like you. Niu. His eyebrows, mouth, nose, and eyes are almost carved out of the same person. The more I think about it, the more I regret it. If I had stopped him that day, I would." The little girl's eyes became a little red. She had no parents since she was a child. Her grandfather picked her up on the road and gave her food to eat, so she was very sensible since she was a child. When she was 5 or 6 years old, she could do some things, such as picking up some firewood near her home to burn, or helping her grandfather to massage his back. When she was in the village, other children had parents, but she didn't. Her only relative was a grandfather who loved her. Sometimes when she saw those children who were loved by their parents, she always wondered where her parents had gone. When some children in the village called her a wild child, she wanted to say that she also had a father and a mother, and she was not a wild child. But she never had the courage to say this, because she only had her grandfather. But after a while, no father or mother came out, and it was her grandfather who ran over and snorted away those children. Sometimes when she saw the fat man in the village spanking his father, she also thought that it would be nice if her father could spank her. This was always a luxury wish, just like she wanted the big doll of the village chief's granddaughter, and her grandfather said that it would cost hundreds of yuan to buy such a big doll. She only had a small doll bought by her grandfather. Although it is a bit old now, she still likes to hold it and talk to it every day. A few days ago, the grandfather said that he seemed to see a man who looked like her father, so he took her out early in the morning and asked if anyone had seen the man. Fortunately, the man was carrying a bicycle that day, so the grandfather was able to ask some questions. Finally, he met this sister along the way, who brought them to the current location, and said that she saw Dad. The older girl was also very indignant at this time and said, "Yes, we must find that man. I didn't expect that this uncle would be a man who abandoned his wife and daughter. I must expose him on the internet and find out this big bad guy. Humph, I still like him, and I wasted my eyes." The old man has thoroughly understood this girl who is a little enthusiastic, but not very reliable these days. So he can directly ignore the girl's words, but the little girl can't just ignore it so easily. A little face like an apple looked at the non-mainstream girl angrily and said, "Dad is not a bad guy. Sister is the bad guy. Dad is not a bad guy." The girl started crying as she spoke. The old man wanted to scold her, but he didn't know what to say when he saw her like this. He looked at the girl with an embarrassed look and said, "I'm so sorry, girl. This child is stubborn and has a bad temper." The old man wanted to hit her, but in the end he couldn't bear to do it. The non-mainstream girl was not angry, especially when she saw the girl crying a little sadly. She could especially understand the feeling of having no father, but others said this about her father, but in her heart, her father was always the greatest and best. It's okay, Grandpa, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that." After the girl finished talking to the old man, she squatted down and looked at the little girl. "I'm sorry, it's my sister who was wrong. Please don't cry, okay? Sister apologizes to you, okay?" The girl took out a tissue and gave it to the little girl to help her wipe her tears. The security guard outside the villa has actually seen this pair of grandfather and grandson in the past few days, and sometimes the older girl. But due to his duties, he would never let them in, nor would he allow them to make trouble there. So when they just came that day, he came out to warn the grandfather. Seeing that the old man was quite old, and he was from the countryside, he used a gentler method to analyze the situation to him, and told him that, if he made a fuss here, he would be moved away in a few minutes. He had no way to stop it, so if he wanted to wait for someone here, he should not make a fuss, otherwise it would be difficult for him to do it. The old man listened to the advice and expressed his gratitude to him, so he could be seen standing there with a little girl watching people coming in and out early in the morning these few days. Sometimes he couldn't bear it, so he would give the two of them a cup of hot water to warm them up. Although he knew which family it was the owner's private information. If he wanted to stay in this business, he couldn't leak this information casually. Now he couldn't say it, even if he knew it. Chapter 349. There are no such coincidences in the world. In the morning, Li Shuang got up his mother and said that he would go to the vegetable market with her today. Let's see if there is anything delicious. Today is his father's birthday. Although he is gone now, his mother always cooks a table of delicious food and adds an extra pair of bowls and chopsticks on the table. When he was a child, he always disdained it. If the person is gone and doesn't want them anymore, then why do he need him? At a rebellious and ignorant age, he can always do some speechless things. I remember that he didn't know what happened at that time, and he threw the bowls and chopsticks in anger and grievance. At that time, his mother slapped him on the spot, which not only stunned him, but also stunned his mother. He covered his face and ran out, and also grabbed Zhao Jixi to run away with him. Later, he took out the only few dollars in his pocket, bought a few bottles of wine, and learned to drink to relieve his sorrow. It was not long after that day that they returned to South Korea. I remember that I hadn't said goodbye to Jess at that time. It took a few years to see my old friend again. Later, their family never put the set of bowls and chopsticks on the table again. It was not until he understood his mother later that he secretly put the bowls and chopsticks on the table that day. His mother shed tears while eating. Li Shuang didn't know whether his lover in the future would love him as much as his mother loved his father. But it was always his mother's persistence that made him believe in this love. He believed that he could always find someone like his mother who would care about him in her heart, even if he died like his father. I wonder if his current girlfriend can do it. He really couldn't be sure of this. Everyone's love is always different. His mother and father went through many stories together before they came together. As for him, the two of them started dating like ordinary lovers. Although they were close, sometimes he always felt as if something was missing. When he just came back from the vegetable market, the car had a problem. He cursed inwardly, thinking that his mother had to rush to make lunch. It looked like there were only a few steps left, so he might as well walk back. Then he called the people from the maintenance club and asked them to tow the car to his villa after the repair. It must be said that paying some dues every year makes some things very convenient. He carried a few bags of vegetables in his hands, and his mother walked beside him, also carrying a bag in her hand. Really, this car is really speechless. It broke down in such a short time. It's such a bad day. It's okay. Walking is good for your health. You too, hurry up and exercise more. Your muscles have relaxed a lot during this period of time. Look at Jess, he is still working hard to exercise now. Hey, I've been a little busy these days. How can I compare with him? This kid says he's busy every day, but in fact he says it when he's lying on a chair to rest. When he's free, he likes to hold a dumbbell and play with it. He doesn't have anything to do. If there is anything, he will ask his subordinates to do it. Li Shuang said a little indignantly that his mother compared him with Zhou Jixi again. This kid really has nothing to do. Once, the one lying on the fruit box told him that he was so busy, it was as if he was deaf and couldn't hear the splashing sound in the swimming pool and the sound of him drinking juice. He has a net worth of more than 1 billion. How much do you have? Don't work hard and don't fall too far behind Jess. The godmother said to Li Shuang. Okay, I know. Li Shuang wanted to say that Zhou Jixi didn't earn it himself. It was all the inheritance left by others. Although he is almost the same, it seems that he is busier. After the two walked to the gate of the community, they saw a little girl crying, and another older girl squatted beside her, holding a tissue to help wipe the tears of the crying girl. The mother couldn't bear to see a child crying, especially a child who looked quite clean. She took out a white rabbit candy from her pocket. This was a habit left over from when she had low blood pressure before. She always kept a few in her pocket. Although her physical indicators have improved a lot recently, this habit is still retained. She walked over and wanted to chat with the girl, and by the way, she wanted to seduce her to stop crying. As for children, they could just say a few words and lie to her, and it would be over. Hello, what's wrong little friend? Come and let your aunt see that you are always crying. It's not a good habit. Li Zhuan walked over and said to the little girl, and by the way, she wanted to help her wipe her tears. The old woman also felt Li Zhuan's kindness, so she didn't stop her from helping Niu Niu wipe her tears. But after the godmother helped the little girl wipe her tears casually for a few times, she looked at Niu Niu's face and couldn't help but be surprised. Why do I look like this little girl somewhere? With this question, she began to unconsciously glance at Niu Niu, but the more she looked, the more she felt that her facial features were a little familiar. She said with emotion, it really looks like it, but I can't remember who it looks like. Mom, what do you look like? I don't understand. What are you talking about? Li Shuang also followed and said to her. Godmother Li Zhuan thought for a while and then remembered that this girl gave her the same feeling as when Zhou Jixi was a child. Her facial features were very similar to his, which made her feel familiar, but unable to remember. No, do you think this little girl looks very similar to Xiaoji? Godmother said to Li Shuang, comparing the little girl. Oh. Li Shuang exclaimed in surprise, then walked to the front and squatted down, and also looked at the little girl. Suddenly, she said with a little surprise, it really looks like. Look at this little nose and the expression when crying and frowning. It's almost the same as when Jixi was a child. My god. There are such coincidences in the world. She was a little shocked and said with a little emotion. The old man and the non-mainstream girl heard it clearly. Originally, the old man wanted to ask questions first, but was pulled by the little girl. Looking at her expression, she signaled him not to be anxious and wait until they said more before asking questions. There are no such coincidences in this world. The Jess or Zyog you are talking about is probably the father of this child. I didn't expect that such a handsome guy would abandon his wife and daughter. You can't judge a book by its cover, the girl said to Li Xuan with a sarcastic expression. Chapter 350. Zhao Jixi was accompanying Sister Yu this morning, and Kaiba was standing not far from them. Bodyguards still have to act like bodyguards. Although they don't know if there is any danger, for bodyguards, no matter where they are, there is a danger that can endanger their employers, so they must be alert at all times. Zhao Jixi didn't have the so-called dissatisfaction of having bodyguards following him like those second generations. Instead, he felt secretly happy when someone looked at him from time to time. Just like a person who returned home in glory, he always hoped that someone would pay attention to him. Now he looked a little bit like a middle school student who deserved a beating. It seems that you are doing well in the United States. No wonder you are reluctant to come back. Sister Yu's voice was a little low and hoarse. Now he just looked a little weak and declining, and there was no trace of the crazy look at that time. When Zhao Jixi was beside her, he also tried his best to take care of his emotions. It had been more than a night since he came back, and he didn't mention the matter of the child, just to avoid accidentally stimulating her emotions. And the doctor also specifically explained this matter. When he Jiang and Jiang Yi left, he specifically explained this point. It's okay, I just had some luck, Zhao Jixi said modestly, and then helped her pull the quilt. It's not that I don't want to come back, but sometimes I feel free when I think about being alone, but sometimes I have to be busy with other things. What I encounter on the road of life is really not something I can decide. All I can do is choose a good road and grope forward. Sister Yu looked at him with a smile. Luck. But as she spoke, she became a little disappointed. Yes, sometimes luck is the key to deciding things. God will give you what he can give you, and you can't force what God doesn't give you. Zhao Jixi had already peeled an apple in a short while. The peel that was connected into a line was lying quietly on the fruit plate at this time, piled up like a piece of cake. Okay, let's not talk so literary, eat an apple first. As she said that, she handed the apple over. We are just two ordinary people. We have to experience all kinds of worldly desires and emotions. Sometimes accidents are just accidents. God doesn't have time to calculate every day whether you should have this or not. There are so many creatures and humans in the world. He can't control them all. After Zhao Jixi handed it over, he also cut one and ate it, but he was still talking to Sister Yu. Haha, who is an ordinary person? You are the one. I'm not an ordinary person. I'm a beauty. You are an ordinary person. Sister Yu smiled and said to Zhao Jixi, as if nothing could affect her good mood. Zhao Jixi looked at her and felt a little nervous. He thought to himself, it seems that she is really sick. There is a little problem with her spirit. She is easily worried and happy. There may be other emotions that come faster and more sensitive than usual. Yes, I'm an ordinary person. Zhao Jixi admitted it readily. Then he chatted with Sister Yu for a while. The two stopped chatting when the nurse came in and asked Sister Yu to rest. Okay, you take a rest first. I'll go get you something delicious, Zhao Jixi specifically told Sister Yu before he left. Okay. After Zhao Jixi closed the door, he went to the nearest hotel. Karo had already booked 2 rooms in there, so he could have a good rest here if he wanted to. The purpose of Zhao Jixi's return this time was simple, which was to make some medicinal porridge for Sister Yu, add some medicinal materials and stew them together. It was very good for the recovery of the person who ate it. If nothing else, it was definitely better than the food in the hospital. In the ward, the woman was still there, but she didn't look at the ceiling at this time, but looked at Sister Yu with envy. This was strange. Since Sister Yu moved in, no one had come to see her. Today's breakfast and lunch were all prepared by the nurses, as if no one from the family had come. I remember that my husband was just like him at that time, caring for me. But as time went by, people changed, and they were no longer as careful and patient as they were back then. He always had a lot of opinions about me as his wife, but he seemed to care about the little woman outside. At that time, he would pretend to be nice to me, but later he even stopped pretending. The woman was getting more and more angry and aggrieved. Men are not good, the woman said at the end, and summed it up with this sentence. Sister, you laughed a few times and said to the woman next door, I think so too. The psychological structure of men is not the same as that of women. But I don't have anything to worry about this man. He and I are not that kind of relationship, and I can't control whether he cheats or not. What? Sister Yu's words shocked the woman, and she almost choked before she could finish her words. At this time, there were actually quite a few people sitting on the sofa in the living room of Li Shuang's villa. Except for Li Shuang and his godmother Li Ziyuan, there were still an old man and two young people sitting there. The old man and the youngest girl sat there a little bit reserved, looking around. This house is much better than the best house in our area, the old man whispered to the girl next to him in her ear. After watching this shocking scene, he almost forgot the purpose of coming. Zhou Yao bowed. Oh my god, it's almost 12 o'clock again. In order to catch up with the word count, I will post a little bit first, and I will change it after I finish writing. I'm sorry to all the great people. Zhou Yao kowtows to all the friends who subscribed. In the morning, Li Shuang woke up his mother and said that he would accompany her to the vegetable market today. See if there is anything delicious. Today is his father's birthday. Although he is gone now, his mother always cooks a table of delicious food on this day and then adds an extra pair of bowls and chopsticks on the table. When he was a child, he always disdained it. If the person is gone and doesn't want them, then what do he need him for? At a rebellious and ignorant age, people always do things that make people speechless. I remember that he once threw the bowls and chopsticks in anger and grievance. At that time, his mother slapped him on the spot, which not only stunned him, but also stunned his mother. He covered his face and ran out, and also grabbed Zhao Jixi to run away with him. Later, he took out the few dollars in his pocket, bought a few bottles of wine, and learned to drink to relieve his sorrow. That day, they returned to Korea not long after. I remember that I hadn't said goodbye to Jess at that time, and it took a few years to see my old friend again. Later, their family never put the bowls and chopsticks on the table that day, until he understood his mother later. He secretly put the bowls and chopsticks on the table that day, and his mother shed tears while eating. Li Shuang didn't know whether his other half of love in the future would love him like his mother loved his father. But it was always his mother's persistence that made him believe in this love. He believed that he could always find someone like his mother, who would always care about him in her heart, even if he died like his father. I wonder if his current girlfriend can do that. He really can't be sure of this. Everyone's love is always different. His mother and father went through many stories to be together. As for him, the two of them started dating like ordinary lovers. Although they were close, sometimes he always felt as if something was missing. When he just came back from the vegetable market, the car had a problem. He cursed inwardly, thinking that his mother had to rush to make lunch. Seeing that there were only a few steps left, he might as well walk back. Then he called the people from the maintenance club and asked them to tow the car and drive it directly to his villa after the repair. It must be said that paying some membership fees every year is really convenient for some things. He carried a few bags of vegetables in his hands, and his mother walked beside him, also carrying a bag in her hand. Really? This car is speechless. It broke down in such a short time. What a bad day. It's okay. Walking is good for your health. You too, hurry up and exercise more. Your muscles have relaxed a lot during this period of time. Look at Jess. He is still working hard to exercise now. Hey, I've been a little busy these days. How can I compare with him? This kid says he's busy every day, but he actually says that when he's lying on a chair to rest, when he's free, he likes to play with a dumbbell. He doesn't have anything to do. If he has something to do, he tells his subordinates to do it. Li Shuang said a little indignantly that his mother compared him with Zhao Jixi again. This kid really has nothing to do. Once when he was lying on a box of fruit, he told him that he was so busy. It's as if he was deaf and couldn't hear the splash in the swimming pool and the sound of him drinking juice. He's already worth more than $1 billion. How much do you have? Don't work hard and don't fall too far behind, Jess. Godmother said to Li Shuang. Okay, I get it. Li Shuang wanted to say that Zhao Jixi didn't earn all this by himself. It was all from the inheritance left by others. Although he is almost the same, it seems that he is busier. When he was a child, he always disdained it. People left and didn't want them, mother and son. Chapter 351. I'm really busy. Haha. Shuang's joke is not funny at all. Well, I'm still busy now. I really don't have time to chat with you. I just sent out an opinion letter, and I have a video conference to hold. After the meeting, there is a woman with some mental problems, who needs me to comfort her. I really don't feel like joking now. Zhao Jixi said to Li Shuang helplessly, after walking out of the door. I just felt that time is really not enough after returning recently. Jobs in the United States has sent an email to the company, and now Apple has agreed to let him join the board of directors. So I asked myself to be present at the board meeting next month to take office. Of course, before that, he also needs to remember more people in Apple, or heroes. In order to avoid meeting someone and not knowing who that person is, it will give people the feeling that this person has not done any homework, which will affect his reputation in the upper class. In the American society, sometimes, the reputation at work has an indirect relationship with a person's personal reputation. Although he is not an executive director, he will soon be one of the representatives of all shareholders. He has the obligation to understand the company's operating conditions and be responsible to all non-executive shareholders and small and medium shareholders. Although in fact, his boss is still Jobs. As long as the internal operating issues of the company do not affect his interests, what can others do to him? In addition, Atwood has recently used his connections to apply to the government for the auction he wants to hold. It can be held as scheduled, which is a matter of the next few days. He doesn't need to worry about the layout of the site, but this is the first time he has organized such a big event. If he doesn't pay attention, he will really feel uneasy. So from time to time he has to look at the documents, the layout of the site, and give opinions. He can't give suggestions, but he can still pick out things he doesn't like and give opinions. When he was at the farm, he would go to take a look and say something he didn't like. But it was a bit troublesome when he came back, because he had to look at the pictures and videos of the site every time. And there were so many of them. He even suspected that the people in the company were messing with him. How could there be so many things? How could this be the feeling of a boss? It was almost like being an employee, but he couldn't bear to let it go. Such a memorable thing had to be borne in his own hands. Speaking of this, the game company's affairs found him again recently, but it was a good thing. The release of Angry Birds went perfectly, and Fruit Swordsman had already started to make a profit. The company discussed the use of this money with Zhao Jixi, and felt that it would be better to use it within the company. Although Zhao Jixi had a good foundation, the company was getting bigger and bigger. Andy had already started to expand the game production team, and planned to launch 1 or 2 mobile network games. The profits of this kind of games were not worse than those of standalone mobile games, and some would definitely exceed those of standalone games. Andy also sent the plan to Zhao Jixi. This plan was to make a game for the sake of making money. The specific game ideas have not come out yet. Zhao Jixi is still the creative director in the company, so Andy also wants to ask Zhao Jixi's opinion to see if he can find some gold nuggets here. Zhao Jixi also tried his best to recall some games he played in his previous life. He thought of a few more ideas and gave them directly to Andy, asking him to find someone to improve them. Whichever one he thinks is good will be made first. He will discuss the details with the company's senior management. However, sometimes he still has to hold a video conference with them to discuss his ideas. Now he feels a little irritated and plans to stop taking care of the position of creative director after a while. It was okay when there was nothing to do before, but when there was something to do, he felt everything at once. It was really a bit unbearable for him, who was used to being relaxed. The most hateful thing is that when he was so busy, Mark Zuckerberg actually sent an email in his personal name and the company's name, expressing the hope that he would respond to the matter of joining the company's board of directors as soon as possible. It would be best to get it done recently. He has been negotiating with other company directors and investment institutions to discuss the introduction of Jay Chou to the board of directors. Mark hopes that he can give a clear answer whether he will join or not, and not give him a vague answer. Jay Chou agreed to his request at this point and joined the company's board of directors, but did not agree to Mark's request to serve as the company's creative director. Now Mark Zuckerberg wants to dig out some of his creative ideas. After several reforms and creative plans proposed by Jay Chou, Facebook has received good comments from users. This also makes people in the company have no objection to Jay Chou's appointment, and they are quite welcome. But Jay Chou himself knows that what he proposed are some things that were copied from foreign countries by the Chinese internet companies in the future. Facebook is serious. He just watched others climb over the wall to access it. In fact, he has really seen that thing, but has never played it like this. Who told him that his foreign language was not up to standard at the beginning, and he didn't have many friends? He was already unsure in his heart, so how could he dare to go there? Besides, he would only be the fourth in command if he went there, and he didn't want to give up his high position and go there to be the fourth in command. Besides, he didn't have the time and energy to do that. He finally didn't have to go to work, but he ended up getting himself involved. If he really went there, he would be stupid. What the hell? Why are there so many problems recently? There weren't so many troubles before. Zhou Jixi was a little irritated now. This was obviously not the life he wanted. Although it was good to feel valued and needed by others, it was not good if it affected his enjoyment of life. It was like when you were doing something shameful with a woman and your friends asked you to play ball or football. Although you usually like this activity, is it as fun as having sex with a woman? The answer is obviously that men will understand. Of course, the object of this sex should be a beautiful woman. If you have to pay public grain, it's better to go out and have fun. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 352. This joke is not funny at all. At Li Shuang's home, Niu was very nervous next to her grandfather. She was about to have a father, and she was no longer a wild child without a father. She was still imagining what her father looked like. She heard from her grandfather that she looked a lot like her father, so her grandfather could recognize that he was Niu's father. And the grandmother who made delicious food also said that she looked a lot like her father. So did her father look like Niu with two ponytails? Niu thought in her heart that it was just an enlarged version of her, and the small braids on her head became big braids. Then this person smiled at her. He was still shouting Niu, I'm your father. Come here quickly. Daddy will hug you. Thinking of this, her body shook unnaturally. For no reason, she felt a strange feeling in her heart. Forget it. Even if you are as fat as Fei Chang's father, just don't look like Niu. Fei Chang's father is a big fat man in the village. He always likes to get his clothes full of oil stains and always has a strange smell. Niu and the children in the village don't like that uncle. The little girl's mood always changes very quickly. She is still thinking about the good side. She never thought that if that person is not her father, what if that person doesn't want her at all? What should she do? After all, she is still a 7-year-old child. There are some things she has never thought about. She is just a little nervous about the unknown person instinctively, and the emotion of fear floods in her heart. The old man looked at Niu, who was a little strange, and whispered to her, don't be afraid, Niu. Even if your conscienceless father doesn't want you, Grandpa still wants you. Let's go back to farm and raise chickens. The old man thought of these things, so he brought Niu here, because he felt that the child didn't know how long she could follow him, an old man. He is a retired veteran who has never found a wife in his life, let alone having children. When he was old, he picked up Niu, and then he stopped begging on the street. He returned to his hometown village, farmed and raised livestock, and lived with Niu. But at this age, he didn't know how many years he could live. This time, when he suddenly saw this man who seemed to be Niu's father, he felt that God had really given him an opportunity. It seemed that he was really destined to meet this person in such a vast sea of people. It was also a blessing for Niu, the poor child. The brother of the child's father lived in such a good house, So how could he be any worse? It must be possible to provide NIU with a good living condition, which is much more promising than following him, an old and lonely man. In addition, when he bought things a while ago, he felt that the man was a rich man, and those who bought things didn't care much about money. That behavior could almost be called a spendthrift. In the past, I bought his things, and it felt good. But now that he knew that this man might be Niu's father, he felt that he was a bit of a spendthrift. Grandpa, when Niu finds her father, we can live with him, okay? Niu looked at the old man. She spoke to him with innocence. The old man touched her head, and a trace of emotion flashed in his eyes, but he tried not to express it. At the age of several dozen, his eyes began to turn red. If Niu finds her father, then you can live with her. Grandpa has things to do and can't accompany Niu every day. The little girl heard it, and didn't think much about it. Grandpa has to go out to work again. Don't we already have land? Do we have to go out to beg for money again? The old man didn't know what to say at first, so he just followed Niu's words and said, yes, there are more people in the family, and there is not enough money to spend. Grandpa has to work harder to earn more money for Niu. As the old man said this, his eyes were already red. The godmother was originally sitting next to the sofa to accompany them, but after listening to the conversation between the two, her eyes couldn't help but become a little wet. It can be seen that this old man and this little girl were related. Listening to their conversation, they used to be beggars. Now they are also farming at home, and I think their lives must not be very affluent. In addition, the old man looks old, and he has to take care of himself and the little girl. Fortunately, he is in good health. If he had praised the two of them, I don't know what kind of scenery they would have lived. But how could it be that he didn't cross it? If the old man's health collapsed, he would take Niu to the city and sit on the ground, and then beg. The old man has never received a subsidy from the country in his life, but for Niu, he not only went back to the village to ask for land, but also did not go to scavenge for a living like before, but went to beg when he couldn't work anymore. These are obviously things that godmother Li Ziyuan doesn't know, and the old man won't bring them up to talk about them. It was only from Niu's words that godmother knew about these things. She could only admire the old man with all her heart. Although she didn't agree with some of his ideas, it didn't stop her from respecting him. Jess is such a good kid. Thinking of this, the godmother didn't know what to say. It was still uncertain whether the child was his. Think about how old Jess was at that time, that is, a child of 15 or 16. Who could he have had a child with at that time? Then she thought of a possibility. He looks very similar to Jay Chou. Could he be Jay Chou's father? Impossible. Jess looks more like his mother and can't be Jay Chou, and he's not that kind of person. The godmother quickly gave up this idea. Obviously, it was not a suitable guess. The non-mainstream little girl looked at Li Shuang with disdain as he secretly ran to a place a little far away to make a phone call. Is there any need to do it secretly? Really, the guy who dares not to admit his feelings is indeed a good brother who has to discuss things secretly. The people on both sides could only smile bitterly. Although they were elders, they really couldn't say anything to this warm-hearted but slightly poisonous girl. One of the two sides was the recipient of a favor, and the other now thought that he was the one in the wrong, so they could only let the child talk. Fortunately, she didn't say anything too unpleasant. Otherwise she, Li Ziyuan, was also a third-generation rich, and she really thought she was a good-tempered person. It's just that being a parent, coupled with a hard life at that time, has also worn out her temper. Li Shuang was quite helpless listening to Zhao Jix's words, but who the hell told him that he had a 6 or 7-year-old child? He would be afraid that he would be more exaggerated than Zhao Jixi. What a rip-off. How old was I at that time? But this matter is really not that simple. He could only composure and then said to him, Jess, I'm not kidding you, there really is a child here. The facial features look very similar to yours when you were a child. Even the facial features on your face now are very similar to this girl. Li Shuan continued. Zhao Jixi on the other end of the line continued to listen to the phone. Brother, my big brother, let's not joke about this anymore. It's not funny anymore. I'm really busy now. I'm not kidding you. My game company has a meeting later. Even the money I spent recently was borrowed from the bank. Recently, this company finally made a profit. Not only did I invest the profit, but I also invested another 10 million from the money I earned from my bad reputation. My investment manager is complaining to me. I still have to go to the bank to pay back another 10 million. This is not the life of a rich person. I'm just a negative asset and a pauper. I'm thinking about how to make more money to spend. Let's not joke about it, okay? Zhou was actually a little annoyed when he said this, but they were all old brothers, so how could he dare to lose his temper casually? Men have to swallow their own bitterness. When he said this, he was actually a little less than a man. Li Shuang smiled bitterly. He really thought he was still the childish Li Shuang before. At how old are they? They still make such jokes. He doesn't think it's funny at all, but this is already a bit unbelievable, and it seems to be true. Okay, I know. You've been having a hard time. You've been having a hard time recently. You've been having a hard time. You've been having a hard time getting on the Apple board. How can you let your brothers face people? Li Shuang couldn't help but think of what his mother said recently, that he had to work harder to reach Zhou goal. Damn, these are two different things. You're still having a hard time. Didn't I tell you to buy Apple stocks? Don't tell me you didn't buy them, Zhou said to Li Shuang. I didn't buy too much. Last time I thought it wouldn't rise too much, but who knew it had risen by more than 10 yuan recently. It looks like it will rise again, Li Shuang said, touching his nose. It's true that the two of them have a similar habit. They both learned it from watching TV shows or cartoons when they were young to act cool. They didn't expect that this habit has been with them for so many years. I have bought more than 1 billion. What are you still hesitating about? I tell you the truth. Both I and my think tank believe that Apple has a chance to reach the level of Google, so just wait to get on this plane and make a fortune. I do want to, but some money really can't be used. It seems that I have to go to the bank for a mortgage, otherwise the money is really a bit too little. If it's true as you said, then of course the more you buy, the better. Update fast pure text chapter 353. If it's not dad's, then it's mine. I do want to, but some money really can't be used. These are all family funds, and some are family shares. Most of this is in my mother's hands, and I haven't told her this yet. It seems that I have to go to the bank for a mortgage, otherwise the money is really a bit short. If you really do what you said, then of course the more you buy, the more cost effective it is. Li Shuang said to Zhou helplessly. He was also moved by the prospect that Zhou talked about. You know, Google's current stock price is more than $400, and Apple's current price is more than 230. This increase has increased a lot compared to when Zhou bought it at 140. When Li Shuang entered the market, it was around 200, and later he bought some stocks, so the average price was about 210, but it didn't take a few days for it to rise to 230. This is not the time when it was more than 190 and more than 200. There was a period of time between each time. Sometimes it is given to speculators, such as Zhou share of the biggest share. These people maliciously manipulated the stock price, and the stock price dropped to more than 160, and then quickly rose to more than 190. But some time ago, Apple's stock was still stagnant. Why does it seem so bullish recently? Li Shuang was not in a hurry for a reason. That is, Apple's stock rose very little some time ago, and sometimes it even fell. Dizzy. Haha. Zhou laughed dryly and said, I'm on the board of directors. What does it have to do with you being on the board of directors? Li Shuang said in a daze, but he was not a stupid person, and he quickly realized that Zhou seemed to be the largest holder of Apple's circulating shares. All of a sudden he understood and said, damn, it was you who was doing this some time ago. I thought, according to Apple's momentum, this shouldn't be the case. I see. No, who do you really think I am, with such powerful abilities? This was all initiated by my manager, and a group of Apple shareholders followed suit. Everyone made money, but I have to bear the bad reputation. These old bastards are really foxes and jackals. They just want to take a bite of the meat. Haha. You are a capable person and you should do more work. Who told you to set such a big goal? You hold such a large number of shares, and they are all personal shares, and you still have circulating stocks in your hands. There are too many variables. Now that you have been summoned, the price offered by Jobs and Apple is not low. You should be content. You have made some money and you probably have some fame as well. Zhou sneered. They are not afraid of me. Jobs wants to kill the hearts of those shareholders who have different intentions and break our group that has just been united by interests. Maintaining the stability of the company's stock market. Recruiting me to the board of directors is also a signal. At this point, Zhou laughed softly. But who cares about him? Anyway, I don't want to get any power in Apple, so there is no need to care too much about those people. A group of foxes and jackals want to fight with lions. Obviously they can only win by quantity, but they are also human thinking. Who would want to be the first victim of the lion's bite? After all, they are just clowns and can't accomplish anything. Zhou said. Li Shuang felt something was wrong when he heard it. When did his unscholarly brother become so powerful? Wow, Jess, when did you become so powerful? Well, this is what my subordinates said. I feel it's very domineering. What do you think? Do you feel what I said? Zhou paused and said to Li Shuang. Fuck you, go to hell. I admired you so much that I listened to you for a long time, but I didn't expect that your high theory was actually analyzed by your subordinates. I really hate you. Li Shuang couldn't help but jump up and curse. However, Zhou didn't argue with him as usual, but just said lightly, does it matter? Does it matter? Yes, what does it matter? It was Zhou's people who helped him analyze it, and he was the final beneficiary. So what does it have to do with this? While Li Shuang was still thinking about this philosophy, the godmother inside had been waiting for a long time and was a little impatient. She apologized to the few people sitting there, saying that she was really a little rude. But when she came out, she found that they were talking about stocks on the phone. It seems that my son has bought a lot, but he hasn't told me yet. It doesn't matter. After all, he has grown up. But he actually wanted to take out a loan, which is not good. Of course, this is not the key thing now. This brat, what did I tell him to do? He actually started talking about stocks with Jess. Really, Z. The godmother was so angry that she was about to spit out a mouthful. She walked over gently. Li Shuang was still talking to Zhou about the recent trend of Apple and how much money he planned to take out to adjust his investment structure. Only in this way can he increase his profitability on Apple stocks. The godmother suddenly shouted at Li Shuang, "Stinky boy, boo, what did I tell you to do? What are you talking about with Jess now?" The godmother interrupted Li Shuang's conversation with a shout, and also stunned him for a moment, and immediately stretched out her hand to his ear. Although the godmother rarely hit Li Shuang, she would definitely grab his ear when she was angry, slapping him in the face or something. It was only that time, when she was very angry, that she hit him. Mom, be gentle, my ears are going to break. Li Shuang didn't dare to resist his angry mother. He could only yell to attract her attention and let her let go of his ears. Who are you talking to? Brat, what did I ask you to do? You are here to talk about stocks and money with me. Is money the only thing you care about? No. Oh, I just told Jess, but he didn't believe it, so I don't know what happened. I led him to the topic of stocks. I really didn't start talking about this. And you see, this is someone who looks like Jess. Just based on this, how difficult it is to make him believe this kind of thing. And he is only a few years old. This seems a bit unreliable. Li Shuang said helplessly. Believe? Humph, come on, I'll tell him. This time, the godmother was a little emotional. She took the phone and said to Zhou, "Hey, Jixi, are you still listening? I'm telling you, now that you may have a daughter. I don't know if it's true. If you don't believe it, come back and do an N test and you'll know." Zhou was a little stunned. He thought it was a joke, but now even the godmother has joined in. He thought about it quickly. It seems that today is definitely not April Fool's Day. The godmother won't play such a game with him. Mom, I can't hear it very clearly. Can you say it again? Zhou's tone was a little stiff. This matter was really a bit strange. Suddenly someone called to tell you that you have a child and you don't know when you went to school. This is either a cuckold or a scam. Li Zhuan was patient at this time. First, she let go of her son Li Shuang's ears with hatred. After telling Zhao Jixi about the incident in detail, he asked Li Shuang to send a photo of Niu to Zhao Jixi. He quickly put the phone call back to the background mode and opened the photo sent by Li Shuang. After loading for a while, it was quickly displayed. He felt incredible when he saw the photo for the first time. Oh my god, what is going on? Is it possible that people's technology is so advanced now that they can Photoshop this? Then he shook his head again, thinking that it was really unlikely that he was still alive. The child looked like he was 6 or 7 years old, and he was only a few years old when he pressed it. But at that time, he seemed to be a teenager who could masturbate, right? But if it's not mine, whose is it? It looks like me. It looks like me. The more Zhao Jixi thought about it, the more he came up with a possibility. Could it be my father's? But I look like my mother, although I also have some characteristics like my father. But there are many characteristics that are a combination of both of them. What's more, the little girl just looked like the combined characteristics I got from my parents. It's obviously impossible for her to be the father and daughter of my father. Instead, it looks like my genetic species. The more he thought about it, the more he thought it was possible. Jess, you're back now. We can't figure it out, but there is no scientific basis. Now we just need to go to the hospital for a test, and we can know whether this child is yours. Godmother still likes Niu, so she also persuaded Zhao Jixi. Godmother, my mind is a little confused now. Please let me think about it. But I have returned to China, and I'm now in Huilanbu. Wait a minute and let me think about it. You leave the children and the elderly here first. I will try to rush over to see them as soon as possible. Zhao Jixi said to Li Zhuan, touching his head with one hand. After the two ended the call, Zhao Jixi walked into the ward again and looked at Sister Yu, who was lying on the bed at this time. She showed her true colors as a strong woman at this time. She said a few words to the person on the phone. She didn't mention that she was sick or anything. She just said that she had to go out for an inspection recently, so she gave instructions to several people about the company's business. Zhao Jixi smiled at her gently. It seems that you are really busy. You are not in good health now. It is right to have a good rest and recuperate. After making a few calls, take a good rest, he said, and went over and picked up the mobile phone that Sister Yu had placed next to the pillow. Update Fast Pure Text Chapter 354 Encounter. Kyle followed Zhao Jixi on a plane to the capital with a speechless face. Just after arriving in this city, the boss said that his child was gone. Unexpectedly, a few days later, the boss said that he seemed to have another child who was now in the capital, but he didn't know who this child was born to. How could Kyle not be speechless when he was living like this? Having a 7-year-old child at this age is not a common thing even in the United States. His boss really showed his extraordinary talent since he was a child. Kyle thought about this matter a little bit obscenely and even laughed a few times from time to time. Zhao Jixi spent a day thinking about the matter and felt that he had to go to the capital quickly to have a look. Whether it was true or not, this matter had to be explained. He Jiang, who came to see him off, and several old brothers said goodbye. Everyone said that if Zhao Jixi's child was really his, then he should bring him over to see and set up a few tables to celebrate. Zhao Jixi also responded to a few questions one by one. As for Sister Yu, Zhao Jixi asked He Jiang and Jiang Yi to visit her more often. He originally wanted to take her with him, but she had only been in the hospital for a few days and was not suitable for transfer. Besides, this time he was going to see the child. Her child had just been lost, and she would be stimulated if she went there. Sister Yu had no opinion on this. Zhao Jixi could fly back from a long distance to see her, and she was actually very touched in her heart. This made her feel that someone always cared about her, which was really heartwarming. Under Zhao Jixi's care for a few days, coupled with the space ingredients Zhao Jixi took out, and the prescription for calming the mind given by the old lady, he had also given Sister Yu several doses, and her current condition had been completely stabilized. However, her mental state was still a little bad. Sometimes she would be in a daze by herself, or in a daze in Zhou Jixi's arms, with some sadness in her eyes. He set off on the plane again, and Zhou Jixi found that he seemed to take a plane to go somewhere when he had something to do. Either he stayed at the farm, or he went for a walk. His otaku attribute was really strong. In the first class cabin of the plane, some people looked at Zhou with strange eyes. His tall and strong body, coupled with the appearance of a foreigner, really made people in this inland area look anxious. Hey, Zhou, did you see? There are a lot of young girls looking at you. Zhou Jixi was already nervous enough at this time, and he relaxed a lot when he saw this. So he couldn't help but tease Zhou, hoping that his embarrassment would at least make him less nervous. Boss, Camisole is still watching me from behind. I don't want to try the sound of my balls being kicked and broken again. That feeling is enough. After experiencing it once, Zhou actually looked straight ahead, as if he didn't care at all about what Zhou Jixi said. Zhou Jixi couldn't help but laugh. Okay, since you have some shadows about this, then I won't force you. After all, this paper can't cover the flame. But Kairo, you are really, When he said this, his eyes unconsciously looked down and said, did you really give it to Kamiksu? He said it, and made a pictographic gesture, and his mouth followed the dubbing. Kairo looked at his boss helplessly, and nodded when he saw that he was so excited. Zhou Jixi pretended to be stunned and looked up and down at Kairo. You are so tall. Kamiksu is a woman. Oh my god. The two were talking, and didn't notice the two women in the first class cabin. One of them got on the plane, and she was wearing a big sunglasses. The hat on her head was taken off. According to Zhou Jixi, this person is either pretending to be cool or a middle school student. The girl watched the strange conversation between the two with interest, but she was a little far away, so she couldn't hear it clearly. Mom, look, those two people seem to be gay. A handsome oriental man, a tall and strong white man. Oh my god, I don't know how their relationship is. Cross-border love is not so easy to talk about, and they are a gay couple. Although the girl spoke in Chinese, some of her intonation and pronunciation also had a hint of American flavor. The woman sitting not far from the girl frowned and whispered to her, Zixi, don't say such disgusting things. Seeing that her mother didn't like it, the girl couldn't help but suppress the gossip in her heart. Okay, you have the final say. Who told you to be my mother? You buddy, I'm talking to you nicely. You're starting to perfunctory me again. It's really the older I get, the less I can control you. This time, didn't I promise you to come out to see the grassland and appreciate the natural scenery? The woman spoke to her daughter with a bit of a hometown accent, as if she was deliberately reminding her daughter where she came from and where her hometown was. Or maybe she was also missing her hometown and couldn't bear to give up the strong hometown accent. I wanted to come here by myself, but you came with me. Really? The girl said, and she saw that her mother's face looked a little bad, so she quickly said, but it's also a very good experience to go to the grassland with mom. I remember the mill and grassland in my hometown when I was a child. I haven't been there for a long time. Let's go there when we go there. When the woman heard this, her face suddenly became much better. She whispered, well, it's been a few years since I went back. You're busy. I've been following you around. Next time you're free, we'll go back and take a look. This time, it won't work. You should shoot those commercials first. Well, okay. Seeing that she had successfully diverted attention, the girl couldn't help but secretly stick out her tongue and smile slyly. Zhou Jixi, who was going to the bathroom, saw it right away. He saw a girl sticking her tongue out at him and smiling like a fox. Suddenly, goosebumps appeared all over his body, and he didn't know why. The girl frowned slightly when she saw Zhou Jixi staring at him. She was a little unhappy, but he didn't look at her mouth. Zhou Jixi said, beauty, please don't stick your tongue out at others. And your expression is so weird. It gives me goosebumps. It's so unlucky for me. After that, Zhou Jixi hurried to the toilet. Chapter 355. Sissy? The girl was a little annoyed. Is this the bad guy complaining first? I stick my tongue out at him. Fuck, I stick my tongue out at him. The girl had a classical face, but also had the cool temperament of an urban girl. Her eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and she still looked a little lethal. Zixi is on the plane. Please keep your voice down. What are you doing there alone? The woman heard her daughter's muttering and said to her with dissatisfaction. She looked around with a little nervous expression, as if she was afraid of being recognized. The short episode did not affect Zhou Jixi's mood. He was still nervous. Even if he was joking or making fun of himself, it would not relieve this nervous mood. I didn't encounter such an incident in my previous life, but I encountered it in this life. If this is really my daughter, how did she live in her previous life? Zhou Jixi suddenly thought of this. It seemed that he had never found anyone looking for him in his previous life. Is this life fate? Or is it God's arrangement? Or is it something else? All these are a bunch of question marks turning over in Zhou Jixi's mind. But now, it seems that they are no longer important. The difficult thing now is that he is going to meet that little girl. Of course, there is also that, the old man selling chickens. If this is really his child, then he doesn't know how to deal with that old man. After all, he has raised his daughter to this age. If he gives money, will he seem too vulgar? A bit like a villain in a TV series? But if he doesn't give money, what should he do? Zhou Jixi now began to think with the child as himself. After thinking for a while, the thought popped up in his mind that, if the child was not his, should I kick her out? Forget it, she is a child without parents after all, we can't do anything too ugly. After thinking about it, Zhou Jixi's face was almost tangled up, but he still didn't seem to have any clues. He could only take one step at a time. This matter was really difficult to solve. Who told her that she looked so much like him? If she had the same body shape as in her previous life, she would probably only look a little bit like him. But the secondary development in this life came, and the effect was very good. In addition, he also worked hard to exercise, so his face and spirit became a little different. And that child was simply a collection of his own advantages. Not only did he have three-dimensional facial features, but he also looked very good. When he returned to his seat, Zhou Jixi didn't look at the woman just now. Now his mind was a mess, and he didn't have the mood to pay attention to this strange woman. Sticking out tongue at strangers? Zhou Jixi felt that this girl must not have taken medicine. The plane arrived at the capital airport very quickly. Kyle followed him and looked around from time to time. It was obvious that he was a responsible bodyguard. The two women also got off the plane and walked on the same path. Zhou Jixi glanced at them again. They are still wearing glasses. They really think they are stars, but, he thought to himself with disdain, and never thought that he seemed to be similar to her in normal times. He also wore a big pair of glasses when pretending to be cool, so that others could not see what he was thinking. None of them went out first, and they all walked in the direction of the bathroom. After a while, one of the women was missing, and they all felt refreshed and walked out one after another. So they did not have any intersection. Zhou Jixi had nothing in his hands, but he was carrying a backpack with a few clothes in it. They were all bought in the city over there. Although they were bought more casually, they were all brand name stores. He put on a big windbreaker, which completely revealed his good figure. With his sunny and handsome appearance, he attracted a lot of eyes when walking in the aisle. After coming out, the girl was walking alone. When she looked up, she saw Zhou Jixi walking in the direction of the slope, and her expression was slightly surprised. Hey, I didn't expect this boy to be good looking. The girl looked at Zhou Jixi with some surprise. He went to the bathroom to wipe his hair and kick off his beard after coming out. Compared with the sloppy bearded man she saw on the plane, Zhou Jixi at this moment really made her feel bright. The girl was so busy looking at Zhou Jixi that she didn't pay any attention to the situation in front of her. She was immediately tripped by a bag pulled by someone. Her body completely lost balance. Ah! She screamed and almost felt like a dog eating shit. However, she reacted and changed the angle of her body, so she just fell sideways. There were not many people around at this time, but there were still a few men, especially young men. While everyone was still paying attention to her, Zhou Jixi reacted. When people saw him, he had already walked up and stood in front of the girl, but he wanted to say something just now. He remembered that he seemed to be going to see that daughter. He was not the idler who would pick up girls when he saw the chance. He was about to lift his right foot to walk back, but he remembered that the people around seemed to be looking at him. It was really a bit awkward for him to come in front of others and not help them. Helplessly, he could only say, "Well, miss, how are you? Do you need help?" The girl wanted to roll her eyes after hearing that. What else can I do after I fell? I'm such a slow reactor. If my mom hadn't gone to the bathroom for a long time and asked me to go out first, and if I hadn't been busy looking at him on the way, how could I have fallen like this? Zhou instantly saw the girl's eye roll, and in embarrassment, he could only continue to use his unique trick of smiling silly. Touching the back of his head, he smiled awkwardly at the girl. Well, he looked as if he didn't know what to say, and then seemed to react. "I'll help you up first. The ground is very cold." The girl looked at the tall and handsome guy in front of her speechlessly. Although she didn't have a good impression at first, but now this kind of sunshine with a silly look really gave people a very comfortable feeling. Not knowing whether she fell down or what, she took the hand handed over by Zhou with a slightly blushing face, and after standing up, she said to Zhou quite cheerfully, "Thank you. Brother, you just saved a woman who fell down. You are really a hero." Zhou gently squeezed her palm. "It's so smooth and tender, it must be fun to touch." This thought suddenly popped up in his mind. He heard the girls teasing, and his mouth reacted quickly. He continued his words seriously. "Don't be polite, I just did something that gentlemen would do. Maybe I'm just a little faster than them, but it's my honor to help you." The girl smiled softly with her hands covering her mouth. Because she was wearing glasses, her eyes could not be seen. Zhou could imagine that those eyes were very beautiful. The girl said to him formally, "Okay, but I still have to thank you, although I can get up by myself." Zhou's face turned red. "Does it seem like I'm being impatient?" He was just thinking about this, but the girl opposite looked at him and laughed softly. She couldn't help but smile bitterly at this, thinking she was fooled. When the two were chatting, some men next to them who wanted to go up, but were one step ahead of Zhou and couldn't go up, now regretted looking at the two people chatting. If they had gone up, they would have been chatting with me. How hateful. Why didn't I go up faster? He didn't want to look at the two people in regret, and just walked forward quickly, trying to turn a blind eye to them. The two had just chatted for a few words, and many people around them had left. But there were still a few people who didn't leave. One was Zhou's bodyguard, and the other one, that was the owner of the luggage that tripped the girl. As one of the protagonists of the incident, this person was obviously ignored. It has to be said that his presence is really weak. "Well, how is your chat going? Can I go over and get the bag?" The man was blocked by Zhou's body, and his bag fell to the ground because he tripped over the girl. When he was about to pick it up, Zhou was already there, blocking his way. He wanted to pick it up directly, but when he saw the two of them chatting, he was a little afraid to go up, especially when he saw the tall and strong Zhou, and there was another tall and strong foreigner standing not far from him, staring at his actions. He hardly dared to move when he saw those sharp eyes, let alone say anything. But seeing that the chat was getting more and more endless, he couldn't wait any longer, especially when one person just left and gave him a funny look. It's not a good feeling to show your back to others, so he plucked up the courage to say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't pay attention to the road conditions just now. I'm really sorry for bumping into you." The girl heard the voice and then followed his words and saw the travel bag between them, so she quickly apologized. Zhou also reacted, and his body was still blocking the other person's position, so he quickly moved to the side. He also smiled at him slightly apologetically. "I'm so sorry, I'm blocking your way." Then he went to pick up the bag and put it at his feet. Chapter 356. At Li Shuang's house, the non-mainstream girl has gone back. Today, only the old man and Niu are here. Yesterday, the godmother asked them to rest here. The old man was a little embarrassed, but he thought that he hadn't seen the person yet. If he was not here, how could he find the person if he ran away? He couldn't find them by himself, so he decided to stay here. At dinner, the godmother cooked a lot of delicious food for them. Niu was a little shy. Although she saw a table of delicious dishes and meats cooked in various ways, she didn't dare to pick them up and eat them casually. She just ate the food in front of her. The old man looked distressed and helped her pick some, but after all, it was someone else's house, so he didn't dare to pick too much. When the godmother came over, she saw that only Niu had eaten a little, while the old man was still waiting for everyone to arrive to eat together. Niu hadn't eaten well these days, so she felt sorry for her and asked her to pick a few bites first. Then, the female comrade just now asked them to eat, and she went to cook 2 more dishes. As for the 2 nannies, they looked at the cute little girl with a little heartache. Living with an old man, she probably hasn't had a good life in the past few years. Although she looks good, she doesn't have much flesh on her body. They are also people who have seen Zhou. To be honest, this girl really looks like Mr. Zhou. If they hadn't told them how old Mr. Zhou was, they would have really thought that this girl was his daughter. But Mr. Zhou doesn't look very old, so how old must he be to have this child, and which woman is willing to give birth to the child for him? The godmother came out and saw this scene, and her heart was a little sour. She was the eldest daughter from a wealthy family, but when she followed Li Shuang's father, she also had a hard time. I understand that kind of helplessness and entanglement, especially when she just brought Li Shuang back to her home and career. She actually felt strange and at a loss, especially her own son, who didn't dare to eat anything under the gaze of his relatives. Even when drinking soup, he was very careful. There were a lot of things on the table that he wanted to eat, but he didn't take any of them. Instead, he ate the kimchi and other things. Hi. She sighed softly and walked over to sit down. She reached out and touched Niu's head, looking at the delicate face of this girl. Good child, just treat this as your home. Your father has never been polite when he comes here. He also likes to fight for food with your Uncle Lee, and he eats a lot more every time. Don't be polite to grandma, okay? Niu stopped using the chopsticks in her hand and blinked at the godmother in front of her. But when she heard that her father was fighting for food with Uncle Lee, she wanted to laugh a little. Hasn't she seen that scene? It must be a very funny scene. In her heart, she unconsciously let go of her godmother a little, so she smiled and nodded. The godmother looked even happier, and then touched her head and said, "What a good child." She picked up the chopsticks, and picked up a lot of dishes on the table, and put them into her bowl. "Come and eat more. These are your father's favorite dishes. Try them and see if they don't suit your appetite. After all, you have lived in the north since you were a child, and your father is from the south, so his taste may be a little different. If it doesn't taste good, just tell grandma." Niu nodded at first, but immediately shook her head, and then she realized that her godmother was even more confused. She realized that nodding and shaking her head could not express more, so she said, "The dishes made by grandma are all delicious. Niu likes them very much." The godmother smiled happily and said, "What a good child, eat quickly." Then she asked the old man to eat more, and took the dishes she specially made for the old man, which were all dishes that were easier to chew. The old man also agreed with her, and he ate a lot for this meal. Li Shuang didn't stay at home that night because he had a dinner party outside. Besides, his mother didn't look at him in a good light today, saying that he didn't care about that little girl at all. He could just talk about stocks by calling her. He didn't even tell her what he had told her to do. She had to do it herself. When he was eating at the hotel outside, he was still thinking about this. You know, he was really with Zhao Jixi at that time. There was no reason for Li Shuang not to know who he was going to date. Then the time for dating was eliminated, and then there were some one-night stands or accidents. But he and Zhao Jixi were both students at that time, so where would they get the spare money to do that? There was no chance for a one-night stand, and it was impossible to find a lady because he didn't have enough money at that time, so the possibility of this being completed was too low. So there was only an accident left. If he met a woman by accident, it would be hard to have a child after that, which was reasonable. But if he met a woman, he wouldn't think about it. It was impossible. Besides, which woman would go to bed with a student? Especially her future. This woman actually gave birth to a child for Zhao Jixi, but in the end, she actually abandoned the child. This is not a good mother, but a very bad person. Since she didn't want to raise the child, why did she give birth to it in the first place? She suffered and the child suffered. I don't know who Zhao Jixi slept with. It's really confusing. Unless he was drunk, who would sleep with a child? Li Shuang complained. But a good idea flashed in his mind, and he actually thought of something. Drunk. When we were kids, and we were drunk together, I seemed to be the one who smashed my dad's dishes, slapped my mom and ran out, and dragged Jay Chow to drink with us. Everyone seemed to be drunk at that time, and there was a woman next door who was also drunk. As a result, Jay Chow and she seemed to have chatted together that day. I was so sleepy at that time that I didn't pay attention. I remember that the next day Jay Chow came to tell him that he actually got up in a hotel. His parents thought he was sleeping at home. It seems that he came here naked and had a strange erotic dream at night. Chapter 357. After arrival, before meeting, Zhao Jixi ended the conversation with the girl, but he never expected that when the girl was about to leave, he found the girl for contact information. And this girl actually told him, just like that. Holding his apple in his hand, he looked at the phone number and name entered by the girl. A name stood on the phone. Liu Kan Meizi. Zhao Jixi asked at that time, so you are Japanese? As a result, the girl raised his feet with a small gesture on the spot. You are Japanese. Your whole family is Japanese. The girl cursed back on the spot. Although I'm an American citizen, I always think I'm a Chinese, and Chinese names cannot have 4 characters. Humph. The girl said to Zhao Jixi with disdain. Liu Kan Meizi. Liu Kan Meizi. No wonder I am so familiar with this name. Zhao Jixi was still a little surprised and sighed for the face he saw after the girl put down her glasses. I didn't expect it to be her. I quite liked this girl in my previous life. I liked the TV series she acted in. As for her acting skills, it was not something he cared about. Liu Yifei is still a jade girl. I didn't expect she would have such a lively side. In my previous life, I read reports saying that she was not a fairy sister. In private, she is actually a more lively person. In addition, she grew up in the United States, so she does things like drinking. Zhao Jixi was still sighing with emotion, and immediately eased the tension of meeting that daughter. Boss, we should go. Kyo looked at Zhao Jixi, who was still in a daze thinking about something, and couldn't help but look at the time and said aloud, oh. Zhao Jixi responded quickly after returning to China and smiled at Kyo. Let's leave quickly. Shuang must be very anxious outside. When the two of them went out, Li Shuang didn't see it first, but saw Liu Kai and Mei holding her mother's arm and walking towards the car waiting for them. At this time, there was already someone helping to carry the luggage, and the man occasionally spoke to her mother. Mother Liu also responded and spoke a few words from time to time, and sometimes took out some special small products from Hulanbu to show the man. Zhao Jixi immediately guessed that the man was probably the good friend of Liu Kan and Meizi's mother, the godfather of Liu Kan and Meizi, the big boss Chen. The girl seemed to feel his gaze and suddenly turned her head in the crowd and looked around and immediately found Zhao Jixi. She smiled sweetly at him and waved with the hand holding the mobile phone. Zhao Jixi also made a goodbye gesture to her and then made a phone call gesture. The girl smiled secretly and got on the car with her family. Mother Liu and Chen Jinfei also noticed that their daughter was greeting someone, and they looked back before getting on the car. Immediately, they saw a tall, strong and handsome man in a well-fitting suit greeting their daughter. Zhao Jixi also noticed that they were looking at him, and just now he was thinking about whether to say hello to them as well. He was scolded by Li Shuang, who was about to jump over from behind to scare him. Just now, Li Shuang found Zhao Jixi from behind and saw that this guy ignored him again. Although his position was not very good, he was ignored by Zhao Jixi again, and it was when this guy was greeting a girl. Fuck you. Every time I come to pick you up, I see you picking up girls every time. You are really your sister. Let's see if your brother will scare you into impotence this time. Li Shuang thought secretly for a while, and then planned to jump over and try to pick Peaches like a monkey and give him a ball. Just let him make a fool of himself, and he was not nervous when he came back to see his daughter and was still picking up girls. Does he still have the sense of responsibility as a parent? But Li Shuang's gesture was so weird, he actually wanted to do a doggy style entry towards the buttocks, but it was in the direction of the pocket. Kyo had noticed this suspicious person a long time ago and always secretly looked at Zhao Jixi. He was watching him secretly, wanting to see what he could do in public. He didn't expect him to start all of a sudden, and this guy actually wanted to rob, and the target was his employer. As a result, Li Shuang was about to pounce, and his hand seemed to be about to reach Zhao Jixi. But suddenly he was hugged by the waist, and then lost his balance, and fell to the ground. Kaio directly pressed him to the ground, using the lock in his hand. Not only did he lock Li Shuang's hands, so that he couldn't move, but he also pressed his face to the ground. Kaio took this into consideration. This is not a big show in the Celestial Empire. Otherwise, if he pressed hard, his face would be facing the ground, and his nose and teeth might be badly injured. Jess, you bastard, someone is looking for trouble, hurry up. After Li Shuang was held down, he found that he couldn't move, and hurriedly called Zhao Jixi. The two of them were quite good at this when they were young. As a result, he turned his head and saw his security consultant Kaio pressing Li Shuang to the ground. At this time, Li Shuang was still shouting at him. He was embarrassed by this scene. Boss, this guy wanted to rob you. I have subdued him now. Kaio held Li Shuang and reported to Zhao Jixi. However, he seemed to have heard the man shouting his boss's name. Did they know each other? Li Shuang could understand English. After hearing what Kaio said, he knew that this man was Zhao Jixi's bodyguard. He was dumbfounded for a moment, but then a wave of dissatisfaction came to his heart. This dissatisfaction was directed at Kaio and Zhao Jixi. Let go, he is one of us, fuck. Li Shuang shouted loudly. Kaio did not let go immediately. After all, he was suspected of attacking Zhao Jixi just now. So the decision should be left to the boss. At this time, the people in the square had already noticed the movement here. A tall white man held down a Chinese, and the other Chinese seemed to be the boss of this white man. Liu and Mei Zi's family in the distance also noticed the situation over there. After all, it happened in that instant. And they just saw that it was the Chinese man who greeted the man who greeted his daughter. It seems that he was subdued by his bodyguard. The bodyguard is tall and looks very strong. Several people also had a strong feeling in their hearts. Zhao Jixi looked at this scene with a guilty conscience. Thinking that the ground was a little cold, he quickly said, brother, oh no, Master Li, this is really a misunderstanding. You promise that you will not retaliate when you get up, and I will let you go immediately. What do you think of this idea? Li Shuang laughed when he heard it and said to Zhao Jixi gently, well, I know. Would I be such a stingy person? Okay, let me go quickly. I still have to take you back. My mother is waiting anxiously. Zhao Jixi felt that something was wrong, but how could he not let it go now? He was just saying this now. As for the effect, he couldn't even guarantee it himself. So he said to Kaio, let him go. Kaio, this is just a misunderstanding. This is my friend, and he is here to pick us up. Okay, boss. Kaio said and let go of Li Shuang, and politely pulled him up, and patted his dirty clothes. Zhao Jixi took out a tissue, and helped Li Shuang wipe the dust off his face. Master Li, you are still magnanimous, and the Prime Minister's stomach can row a boat. Look, there is still some for me to wipe for you. Li Shuang smiled at Zhao Jixi with a surprisingly gentle attitude. It's okay, I can do it myself. We are my own brothers, how can I blame you? He patted Zhao Jixi's arm. Zhao Jixi also felt more and more wrong. When did this guy's temper get better? Something is wrong. But before he figured out what was wrong, Li Shuang said, is it clean? Don't worry, it must be clean. Look at your handsome little face. Even your hairstyle has been tidied up. Zhao Jixi said. Oh, that's good. Image is still very important, especially in this public place. Li Shuang touched his hair and said. Yes, Master Li, you are right. Zhao Jixi flattered him. Okay. What's okay? Zhao Jixi was a little confused. Nothing. Li Shuang said lightly, and then pointed to Liu and Mei Zi's family over there. The people over there are still looking at you. Zhao Jixi looked back, and saw that they were really looking at him. Suddenly, he felt something was wrong in the direction of his butt, and he instinctively hid away. Looking back, it was Li Shuang. Ah, you little stinky boy, how dare you beat your brother? I'm your brother, you little stinky boy. Li Shuang said, ignoring the strange looks of the crowd, and then taught Zhao Jixi a lesson. But they all avoided Zhao Jixi. Brother, didn't you say you wouldn't retaliate? Why are you still here? Taking advantage of the time to dodge, Zhao Jixi also shouted loudly. Hey, AIZ, when did you become like a loach? Stand still. Li Shuang kicked and moved his hands, but he didn't catch Zhao Jixi. I'm just lying, so what can you do? You little bastard, you even have bodyguards, and you even taught me a lesson. I'm going to get you back today. AIZ. The people around also heard the loud voices of the two people, and couldn't help laughing for this pair of brothers who were a bit lively. Liuz and Mizi, who were far away, also heard some of the sporadic voices, and guessed the plot. Chapter 358 is over. Revised. The whole family couldn't help laughing. Haha. It's really speechless. Liu Yifei said. Haha. They are all young people. Chen Jinfei said with emotion, and then said to Liu Yifei, Zixi, who is this boy? It seems that you know him? Is he your friend? No, I met him on the plane. I felt that he was not bad, so we chatted for a few words. Oh. Is it the couple sitting in the two seats on the slant? Mother Liu immediately remembered these two people. Yes, that's them. This guy seems to be good. I wonder what he does. Mother Liu said suddenly. Mom, what are you thinking about again? I'm still young. Please don't bother about my affairs, okay? Liu Yifei said speechlessly. Okay, the child is the child's decision. We just need to be responsible, and don't check it. Chen Jinfei also said. Haha, the godfather is still considerate. Liu Yifei said with a happy smile. TSK, you damn boy, as your mother, can't I care about you? I gave birth to you in vain. Mother Liu said to the woman angrily. Seeing this, Liu Yifei quickly gave in. She loved her mother the most, and it was the same this time. Although she knew that her mother was just pretending to be angry, if you didn't comfort her, she would probably be really angry later. Mom. Liu Yifei called like a spoiled child. Li Shuang over there looked exhausted, but he didn't hit Zhao Jixi. You little brat. He panted a few times. Stop and let me kick you a few times, or this thing is over. Zhao Jixi looked at him speechlessly, and said, okay. Li Shuang looked at Zhao Jixi with a grin, and kicked him. Ah, you kid are still hiding. Ah, I'm used to it. After the laughter ended, after Zhao Jixi kicked him a few times, and signed a series of unequal treaties, Li Shuang said that this was to make up for the damage to his young heart. Li Shuang drove the car, and Zhao Jixi sat beside him with a nervous look on his face. From time to time, he asked about some specific situations, as well as the girl's information, and what happened that day. There was also the attitude of the old man, with the attitude of the daughter. These were all what Zhao Jixi thought it necessary to talk to Li Shuang in person, or communicate with him in person. Hey, I don't know where this kid came from. How did I end up in this situation? I'm speechless. Zhao Jixi sat in the passenger seat, and complained to Li Shuang who was driving. You really can't remember? Li Shuang glanced at Zhao Jixi, and began to say lightly, I remembered everything yesterday. What? Zhao Jixi blurted out in shock. You actually know something that I don't know. You won't eavesdrop. But speaking of it, people of that age are indeed impulsive. Li Shuang didn't say much. He braked the car directly, causing Zhao Jixi to almost hit his head, and by the way, it also made Kyo behind him suffer a little. Zhao Jixi touched his head, and looked at Li Shuang speechlessly. Okay, I'm happy now. Really, let's be serious. I've always been serious. Then Li Shuang said, do you remember the time when we were little kids and I asked you out to drink together? When we were little kids? Drinking? Zhao Jixi thought for a moment and suddenly remembered. Oh, you had a slap on your face then. Yeah. Were you drunk then, and then you woke up in the hotel in the morning? The next day you told me you had a wet dream, right? Zhao Jixi thought for a moment, and nodded at him. Although the memory was a bit distant, he still remembered something about this incident. Didn't I tell you later that I opened the hotel? Yeah. Zhao Jixi nodded. Actually, it's really not my business. I just fell asleep in the toilet of the store. When I saw you the next day, you were talking all the time. Li Shuang said. Damn, How could I be so touched, and you cheated me of my pocket money for several days. Zhou Jixi's mind was beating a little fast, and he actually thought of this. Li Shuang said with a smile, are you going to listen or not? Okay, go on. Think about it, the age of that girl is roughly close to the time when you had the incident. And at that time you still thought you were a virgin. Who would have thought that you would lose it so early? Zhou Jixi listened and thought about it, and it seemed to be quite interesting. But he really couldn't figure out whether it was a dream or a fact. He was so drunk that day that he vomited several times. And how could that woman go to bed with him? It's hard to explain. In addition, why did she give birth to the child later? This is also a question. This matter is a bit complicated. Even if this woman went to bed with Wei, even if I shot her, how could she give birth to the child? Maybe she had someone else who was not her husband, and I thought it was their child. Li Shuang said. Then why did they throw the child away again? Maybe they found that the child doesn't look like them, or something unexpected happened, and they need blood type. This test found that the blood types of the two people can't get your blood type at all. Li Shuang continued to help Zhou Jixi analyze. Then maybe they suspected an affair. Maybe it was the man's wish, or the woman's own wish, so they threw the child away. Zhou Jixi touched his forehead with a headache. He didn't know about this in his previous life, and he didn't expect that there was such a secret, which was exposed in this life. But it's really hard to say about this child. Forget it, my blind guess is useless. It's easier to do some DNA testing. Zhou Jixi said after a while. Yeah, that's right. My mother and I also mean the same thing. Should we be more cautious about this matter? Although it doesn't look like those two people are scammers, it may be a coincidence or something. Let's go for the test. Li Shuang also nodded in agreement. San Francisco International Airport, United States. It was a few days later, and Zhou Jixi suddenly walked out of the passage. Unexpectedly, he was back in the United States in a blink of an eye. The strange thing was that he was holding a cute little girl by his side. The girl was wearing a one-piece princess dress and holding a black and white panda in her hands. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 359. Daughter. Zhou Jixi didn't expect that he would become a man with a daughter. Before he knew it, he successfully evolved from a man to a father, a career that he thought was too early, and he had no confidence at all whether he could do this job well. Oh my god, am I just going to admit it like this? Is it just because of my momentary softness? Zhou Jixi kept asking himself these days. He didn't look at the DNA identification. He also told others not to look at it. When Zhou Jixi just got off the car, he learned from the house that he was about to get home. The little girl looked out from the balcony upstairs all day, saying that she could see farther this way. As a result, when he saw the car entering the outside of the villa, Zhou Jixi walked out from the co-pilot seat. Niu's big eyes were full of tears as she looked at his figure. The familiarity immediately made the little girl understand something, and then the little girl ran out of the house without wearing shoes. Zhou Jixi was stunned when he saw this scene, and he felt that this face was really familiar. The little girl ran like the wind, and the tears in her eyes burst out immediately. With the oncoming cold wind, the tears were blown away, and they floated behind her like raindrops. The socks on her feet were already covered with stains at this time, and she didn't care about the coldness of the ground. While running, Niu shouted loudly, "Dad!" Her eyes full of tears were already a little blurry, and she couldn't see the road in front of her. She accidentally stepped on her socks and fell. At this moment, Zhou Jixi felt a pain in his heart, and his heart felt a little numb and itchy. But Niu herself stood up immediately without even looking at him, and ran towards the place in her memory, and then shouted loudly to Zhou Jixi, "Dad, Dad, Dad." Zhou Jixi was stunned there. At that moment, he didn't know what he was thinking, as if he had a daughter, and she couldn't see him for a long time. The sound of dad was like a hammer hitting his heart. Unconsciously, his eyes became a little blurry, as if covered with mist. Niu was very fast, and her knees and hands were stained with small stains, some of which were even reflected with traces of blood. She had already run to Zhao Jix's front, and as if they had a tacit understanding, she jumped vigorously, and Zhao Jixi just happened to hug her. Dad. Niu's little body leaned against Zhao Jixi and hugged his neck with both hands, and her little face leaned tightly against Zhao Jixi's body. At this time, her tears and snot were almost mixed together, but her voice was surprisingly deadly and loud. When Niu shouted, everyone in the room had already gathered at the door to watch this scene. The old man couldn't help but worry when Niu fell, but when he saw her stand up and run towards her father immediately, he felt very strange in his heart, and there was always a faint sense of loss. The nanny and godmother around were also nervous. In addition to worrying about this lovely girl, they were also worried about Zhao Jix's performance. Godmother knows this boy well. Sometimes he is the kind of heartless person. Maybe when the test report is not out, he would hide away immediately if he saw this girl like this. Say, is this child my daughter? But things are a little beyond everyone's expectations. Zhao Jixi actually hugged the girl. His eyes were full of tears, and at this moment they flowed again. Zhao Jixi looked at Niu and let her call daddy. He did not object, but wrapped the little girl tighter. At this time, both of them were afraid that the other would leave and disappear. Li Shuang was behind them, watching this scene, and felt happy for him. Perhaps in their minds, this girl was Zhao Jixi's daughter at this moment. His eyes couldn't help but be a little red at this time. Kao looked like a strong man, but at this moment he took out a handkerchief and gently wiped his tears. Zhao Jixi listened to Niu's loud cry, and he also nodded and said, yeah, I'm here. At this time, these people seemed to be under a spell, and regarded this girl who had not yet been tested for DNA as Zhao Jixi's daughter. Even he himself was no exception. San Francisco International Airport. Zhao Jixi glanced at his daughter, and the little girl was looking at the surrounding environment with a surprised face. This was her first time to take a plane, her first time to go abroad, and her first time to see so many foreigners. There were many firsts before this, such as the first time her father held her hand to go shopping, and she could also act like a spoiled child to her father, and she could ride on her father's neck, like many children with fathers. They can always sit on their father's shoulders and see higher and farther. The friends in the past said that it was a feeling of flying. She was very envious at that time. This time she also has a father, and now she can also ride on her father's shoulders. Zhao Jixi took her shopping and playing those days, took her to eat, buy clothes, and buy dolls. But when it comes to buying dolls, usually people like big dolls, and he was no exception. He liked it at first sight. Zhao Jixi immediately fell in love with a big bear, which was about 90 feet tall. When it was sitting there, he felt a bright feeling in front of his eyes. When he saw it, he pulled the child and walked over excitedly. After taking a closer look, he was very satisfied with the quality. But when she wanted to buy it for her child, she didn't want such a big one. Although there was a little desire in her eyes, she told Zhao Jixi that she didn't want this one, because she still remembered that when she liked to play dolls very much, her grandfather said that big dolls cost a lot of money, and they didn't have the ability to waste that money to buy this thing. So Niu felt that this thing must be very expensive. She had been dependent on the old man since she was a child. She knew how precious money was. Only with this could they have enough food, otherwise they would have to starve. Seeing the persistence in Niu's eyes, Zhao Jixi didn't insist on buying it. As a result, he helped the little girl pick out the panda that she was holding now. It looked like a small guy, but it was not cheaper than the big doll, and it was much more expensive than it. Zhao Jixi was a little speechless after seeing this, and couldn't help but sigh that it was indeed the easiest to make money from children. Chapter 360, Unedited. Wrong decision first. It will be done soon. Jay Chou returned to San Francisco first. The things about Apple and the auction he had sent out could not be delayed. If he continued to deal with it, his already bad reputation would be ruined. The United States is a country that attaches great importance to the concept of time. What they hate most is people who are not punctual. They think that such people are wasting their lives. Being with them is like playing with their lives. It is really annoying. But his daughter just accepted him. She has been sticking to him these days. When he wanted to leave, Niu cried so hard that it was heart-wrenching. Jay Chou realized that having a child was not a good thing. There were many things to do. In the end, he had no choice but to take Niu to the United States at the suggestion of the old man, and then go back after finishing the things at hand. So the girl followed his chariot. He took his daughter on the plane and came to this country, a country that made Niu curious and unfamiliar. Niu seemed to have heard the grandson of the village chief say that his grandfather and father went to the United States for an inspection or something and brought him a lot of dolls and gifts when they came back. This time, she followed Zhao to this country, which in her eyes was a gift-like country. Just now, she was still wondering if she would receive a lot of gifts here. She was a typical substitution of concepts, or perhaps she had no concept at all. With her daughter, she got into the car of an Indian who smelled of curry and headed towards the Four Seasons hotel in this city where he often lived. Along the way, Niu kept looking at the taxi driver strangely, and she didn't know what she was wondering about. However, Zhao felt that he had a good relationship with these Indians. He often met these people driving cars when taking a taxi. The car quickly drove to the destination. The hotel's waiter ran over to help Zhao open the door, and then said, "Welcome to stay at the Four Seasons Hotel again. I hope this time will give you a good memory." Zhao looked at the little doorman, and found that he still had some impression of him in his mind. "You are very good," Zhao said lightly, and then gave him a consumption bill. "Thank you, Mr. Zhao." Walking into the lobby, under the leadership of the foreman, Zhao came to the ambassador suite where he lived. One advantage from here is that, if you look down, you can see a lot of busy people running for life. Looking at them, Zhao felt that he was reborn this time, which was really a blessing from God. Although he didn't know why he was reborn, it was a good thing. If he was busy like that, wouldn't it be no different from his previous life? This was obviously a little dissatisfied with what happened during this period of time. Zhao was fine now, but he was busy again recently, and he flew to both China and the United States several times. This time, he had planned to play for a few more days after returning, but he didn't expect to encounter so many things, not only Sister Yu, but also Niu's affairs. Speaking of his daughter, he still doesn't know what her name is, but has always called her Niu, and she doesn't have a formal name yet. Seeing his daughter looking around the environment after coming in, Zhao smiled and shouted, Niu, come to daddy." Niu in the distance moved her ears as if she had a radio. This is also the same as Zhao, whose ears can move. She also replied, "Yes, I'm here." After saying that, she ran towards Zhao position. He picked up his daughter and let her sit on his arms. The little girl is already 7 years old now, but she is growing and developing, and it is estimated that she is still about the same as a 5-year-old child. She looks thin and small, and Zhao feels a little distressed when he sees her. When he was at his godmother's house, Zhao listened to the old man's story about Niu in the past. The two of them used to rely on the old man to drag his sick body to beg so that they could have a hot meal. When the old man gets old, his physical functions will always be a little aging. There will be times when he gets sick, and then he can't work, and the family's income will definitely be cut off. If he doesn't go out to beg, what will the two mouths at home eat? Zhao can see that the old man is a very face-loving person. He didn't expect that for Niu. He would go to the streets to beg, or go to the trash can to find some things, and take them back, to sell the waste, to make a little money. He was also moved in his heart, to be honest, thinking that his daughter has been with this old man for so long. If they are separated, Zhao is also afraid that Niu will be sad. In addition, there will be no chance to repay the old man. The old man is a veteran. He has been childless for many years. It doesn't matter how he lives alone. Since he picked Niu up later, he has treated Niu as his own baby. But he didn't expect to meet Zhao by accident. Not only did he bring Niu to find him, he also wanted to give Niu, who he had raised for so many years, to him to take care of. Zhao Jixi was really a little touched by the old man's behavior. So Zhao Jixi thought, why not take care of the old man himself? Anyway, there is one more mouth on the farm. It's not like he can't support it. But according to the old man's stubborn temper, Zhao Jixi knew it was impossible without thinking. But in just a moment, he nodded and thought of giving the old man a job and working on his own farm so that he could not only see NIU, but also prevent NIU from thinking badly of him. But he couldn't do it again. Zhao Jixi returned to San Francisco first. The things about Apple and the auction he sent out for the invitation letter could not be delayed. If he continued, his already bad reputation would almost be ruined. The United States is a country that attaches great importance to the concept of time, and the most hated people are those who are not punctual. They think that this kind of people are wasting their lives, and being with them is like playing with their lives, which is really annoying. But his daughter just accepted him, and she has been sticking to him these days. When she wanted to leave, NIU cried so hard that it was thrilling. Zhao Jixi realized that having a child was not a good thing, and there were many things to do. In the end, there was no other way. Under the advice of the old man, he simply took NIU to the United States first, and said that he would finish the things at hand before going back. So the girl followed his chariot, and he took his daughter on the plane, and came to this country, a country that made NIU curious and unfamiliar. NIU seemed to have heard the grandson of the village head say that his grandfather and father went to the United States for something called an inspection or something, and brought him a lot of dolls and gifts when they came back. This time, she followed Zhao Jixi to this country, which was like a gift in her eyes. Just now, she was still thinking whether she would receive a lot of gifts here. This is a typical case of her changing the concept, or maybe she has no concept at all. With her daughter, she got into the car of an Indian who smelled of curry and headed towards the Four Seasons hotel where he often lived in this city. Along the way, Niu always looked at the taxi driver strangely, and she didn't know what she was wondering about. However, Zhao Jixi felt that he had a good relationship with these Indians. He often met cars driven by these people. When he took a taxi, the car drove to the destination very quickly. The hotel's waiter ran over to help Zhao Jixi open the door quickly, and then said, "Welcome to stay at the Four Seasons Hotel again. I hope this time will give you a good memory." Zhao Jixi looked at the little doorman, and found that he still had some impression of him in his mind. "You are very good," Zhao Jixi said lightly, and then gave him a bill. "Thank you, Mr. Zhao." Walking into the lobby, under the leadership of the foreman, Zhao Jixi came to the ambassador suite where he usually lived. One advantage from here is that, if you look down, you can see a lot of busy people running for life. Looking at them, Zhao Jixi felt that he was reborn at this moment, which was really a blessing from God. Although he didn't know why he was reborn, it was all good. If he was busy like that, wouldn't it be no different from his previous life? This was obviously a little dissatisfied with what had happened during this period of time. Zhao Jixi was fine now, but he was busy again recently. He flew to China and the United States several times. This time he originally planned to play for a few more days after returning, but he didn't expect to encounter so many things, not only about Sister Yu, but also about NIU. Speaking of his daughter, he still doesn't know what her name is, but has always called her NIU, and there is no formal name yet. Looking at his daughter who looked around the environment after coming in, Zhao Jixi smiled and shouted, NIU, come to daddy." NIU in the distance, moved her ears, as if she had a radio installed. This is also the same as Zhao Jixi, whose ears can move. She also replied, "Yes, I'm coming." After saying that, she ran towards Zhao Jixi's position. He picked up his daughter and let her sit on his arms. The little girl is 7 years old now, but her growth and development are probably that of a 5-year-old child. She looks so thin and small that Zhao Jixi feels a little distressed when he sees her. Chapter 361 Thoughts. A formal armani suit made Zhao Jixi's slightly young face look much more serious at this time. In recent days, most of the communication with Apple was done by his personal lawyer Harvey. When Zhao Jixi came back, he had already talked to him on the phone. After the appointment, Zhou only needed to sign his name on the contract, then he would be a non-executive director of the board of directors. As for what position it was, it had been decided after internal discussions within the company. Zhou was arranged to join the company's internal joint management Apple board of directors, serving on the 3 committees of the board of directors: audit and finance, appointment and dismissal and corporate management, and remuneration, and the audit and finance committee among these 3 committees. Harvey, I'm almost there. Where are you now? Zhou called the lawyer to ask about his location so that he could go back. Boss, I saw the taxi. Zhou said that the person inside is you. I have to say that she has a good eye. Harvey said. Yeah, I've seen you guys. Zhou said, and stopped the taxi. He gave the fare and didn't ask for the change. He just gave it as a tip to the taxi driver who was not Indian. The Eastern European in the car also smiled happily at Zhou. I hope you will be lucky all day, sir. Zhou also smiled and said, thank you, I think so, and closed the car door. At this time, Harvey came over with Zhou and his assistant, and a person Zhou didn't know. Boss. Several people called out. Zhou should have joined them earlier, but new news matter delayed him. Although he didn't think he could be a good father, it didn't stop him from trying. So they communicated through video conference. However, the recent events also made Zhou feel that his team was a bit like a plate of sand, and it couldn't be turned into stone and put together. There were many things that he had to deal with by himself. After all, Harvey was just a lawyer, and he also had the idea of getting into politics. Although he was the leader in Zhou's team, there were still many things that he couldn't take care of. This also made him realize that his team still had many shortcomings. After all, it was not the same as when he just came to the United States. As his investment increased and his social status was also improving, these people were far from enough. He also needed a more professional team to help him deal with things like foreign-related social activities and his future spokesperson, with his investment consultants and risk assessment and crisis management, etc., as well as acquisition and supervision personnel. In more detailed aspects such as security and image, they all needed professional help. Now he has several positions such as legal advisor, investment manager, and supervisor, and they form a think tank for him. But these are not enough. For example, when he acquired the game company, he used his personal relationship and asked Dale to help him, and he owed a favor for nothing. He also has a good team. As long as he says that he wants to make games and needs to buy a company to play with, the people in the team can be used, and they can also give suggestions and evaluate the benefits that Zhou can gain and lose according to his requirements. Zhou will decide whether this is a suitable thing and make the final decision. In this way, even if he is a layman in an industry, with his team's analysis, such as connections, funds, prospects, etc., he can decide whether he can do it and how much benefit he will get and how much loss he will get if he does it. Now, it's like a guerrilla bandit, not a guerrilla army. At least they are doing it with a purpose and a goal. Zhou is firing a cannon in the east and a gun in the west. Although he has the advantage of rebirth, these firepower can get a good income. But this is not a long-term solution. If he is reborn after the time has passed, he can only live off his previous earnings. If he makes a rash decision by mistake, he may make or lose money. Hey, this person will never be satisfied if he has a big heart. Zhou would sigh like this sometimes. Ambition is something that is forced out. You have so much money in your hands, and know some news. If you don't make this money, you will feel sorry for yourself sometimes. Now Zhou himself has a lot of money, but he can't spend it on stocks. However, Apple's stock price will only grow wildly in the next few years, and it will fall in the future. This is certain. At that time, he will make a decision whether to buy Google or something else. Moreover, his own game company, according to the company that made Angry Birds in the past, they rely on this game and its peripheral brands to have a market value of more than $1 billion. Zhou has produced many popular games in later generations. He believes that this market value will definitely surpass that company. At that time, whether to keep this golden chicken to lay eggs or sell it directly. All this needs to be considered. After all, he really doesn't have much creativity in making games. It's okay in the early stage, but I don't know how to mix it in the future. Thinking too much will make you troubled. Let's talk about this matter. Let's finish the Apple company's business today and then talk about it. After thinking about it, Zhou followed Harvey and the others to say hello. After a few casual chats, Harvey introduced this person Zhou didn't know to him. He was also a partner of his law firm. He was particularly professional in corporate contracts and was a specialist in this area. Harvey brought him here to show that he attached great importance to Zhou's matter. Sister Zhou, you have worked hard recently, Zhou said to Zhou. It's okay. There are not many things to do in the company, and the environment is quite relaxed. It's not hard or not. Zhou smiled and said to Zhou, not sure if it was because he was dressed a little serious today or because Zhou joined the board of directors of this famous company. Zhou felt that his aura was a little different. He couldn't speak as relaxedly as usual and couldn't help but feel a little strange in the familiarity. Zhou had a lot of things to do today, so he didn't pay attention to these, but turned to Harvey and said, Harvey, today they have decided to appoint me to the Audit and Finance Committee. It is said that there won't be too many things in it, and there will only be 2 or 3 meetings a year. Don't worry, boss, although this department is a relatively important part, as long as you don't want to be busy, there is actually nothing to do. Even if there is something, you can come to us for advice. Harvey said to Zhou with a relaxed look. Chapter 362 Audit and Finance Committee. Zhou's eyes lit up when he heard this. It seemed that Jobs really listened to his words. It would be easy for him to do this in the future. But sometimes this is not a good job. The partner brought by Harvey said to Zhou. Zhou looked at Harvey and this person with doubt. He obviously thought that this guy was a small role. He almost didn't even remember his name. It was like in his previous life, when Zhou went out to work, he met some bosses who basically didn't remember your name. Just call him hey, or that person, or you, that, and other small roles and small roles. These are just some unexpected situations, but there are a lot of people watching the complex relationship in Apple, so you don't have to worry about these. Harvey said comfortingly. Zhou frowned slightly, and he was a little worried. Tell me about this matter, I don't know much about it. Okay. Harvey shrugged and followed his footsteps. Ken, you come and explain this to the boss, said the partner next to him, a middle-aged man who was a little fat and had a small belly and a little less hair on the front of his head. Ken nodded and said to Zhou, according to the definition of the US Sarbanes-Oxley Act, the audit committee refers to a professional committee in the board of directors, which is mainly composed of non-executive directors. The audit committee refers to a committee, or a group of equivalent significance, initiated by the board of directors of the issuing securities company, and composed of board members, and its purpose is to supervise the company's accounting, financial reporting and the audit of the company's accounting statements. Yes. Zhou nodded to show that he understood. Ken continued to talk. Its emergence is actually a response to crime and the improvement of internal loopholes in the company. The emergence and development of the concept of the audit committee can be regarded as a response to several fraud and corporate bankruptcy cases that occurred in the United States and Canada at that time, which attracted great public attention. Fraud cases? Aren't there people monitoring inside the company? Zhou said with some doubt. Ken is talking about the time when it was not perfect before, Zhou said. But even if it's perfected now, there are still many such incidents. It's just that the methods used are more perfect and cunning, making it more difficult for others to detect. Ken felt a little uncomfortable when he was suddenly interrupted and looked at Harvey. His eyes also revealed something. Didn't you say that this boss is a good person? Why does he like to interrupt others so much now? Harvey didn't answer, but turned his head away. Okay. Zhou nodded and stopped looking at Zhou. Instead, he turned his head and looked at Ken, indicating that he could continue. Harvey was helpless about the reactions of the two people and shrugged at Ken in a funny way. It's okay, man. They are just like that. Just go on. Our boss is always a curious baby. but he can quickly absorb a lot of things and use them directly when they are useful. So you don't have to worry about him forgetting what you said. Ken gathered his spirits, nodded and continued. Since 1978, the New York Stock Exchange has required that all listed companies must be equipped with an audit committee composed entirely of independent directors. In December 1992, the Canterbury Committee in the United Kingdom signed a report on corporate governance, which recommended that all British listed companies should establish an audit committee. Shortly thereafter, the London Stock Exchange included the establishment of an audit committee in its best practice guidelines. In 1998, Hong Kong also learned this system from London and included the audit committee in its best practices. This means that starting from January 1, 1999, all listed companies must include a statement in their interim and annual reports. It is used to explain that the company has followed the audit committee's code, or to explain why it has not followed the code. Ken said to Zhou, "Oh, I understand a little bit now." Zhou nodded, as if he really understood it. In fact, only he knew whether he understood it or not. But this is not the company's internal audit and finance committee. Although it sounds a little clear, what exactly is my job? Zhou continued in doubt. This was the time Harvey was going to say this in person, so he gestured to Ken, cleared his throat and said, "The board of directors is responsible for supervising internal accounting controls, financial statements and other financial matters of the company. The audit committee is a special working body established by the board of directors, which is mainly responsible for the communication, supervision, and verification of internal and external audits of the company. The audit committee is composed of 3 directors, 2 of whom are independent non-executive directors of the company, and the other is an executive director. And you are one of the non-executive directors." "Well, I know that. I don't work for Apple. I'm just a shareholder representative or something like that." "Yes, boss." Harvey nodded and said. Then he turned to Zhou and said, "Your responsibilities in this board of directors now are actually mainly these items. The first is to review and supervise external audit institutions, whether they are independent and objective, and whether the audit procedures are effective. The second is to formulate policies and implement non-audit services provided by external audit institutions. The third is to review the company's financial information and its disclosure. The fourth is to supervise the company's internal audit system and its implementation. The fifth is to be responsible for the communication between internal and external audits. Another thing is to review the company's internal control system and audit major related transactions. The main goal of the audit committee is to supervise the provision of effective financial reports and to control, identify and manage the many factors that may pose risks to the company's financial condition. The risks faced by the company involve competition, environment, finance, law, operations, regulation, strategy, and technology. The audit committee itself cannot supervise all these risks, and all parties, including other committees of the board of directors, should work together. In this regard, I have to say that Apple's Steve Jobs did a really great job. Harvey also seems to be a fan of Steve Jobs, but in terms of business, not innovation. And as an institution of the board of directors, the audit committee mainly focuses on the importance of effective financial reporting and risk management, identification and control of key risks by the board of directors, senior management, and internal and external auditors. Of course, it also has a supervisory job. If the certified public accountants find major problems during the audit process, they can communicate directly with you, the audit committee member. This is also conducive to the timely resolution of major issues and the guarantee of the independence of the certified public accountants. When the audit opinions of the certified public accountants are inconsistent with or conflict with the opinions of the management authorities, and their independence is threatened, they can communicate with the audit committee and seek protection, which can effectively play the independent attestation role of the certified public accountants. The audit committee is also responsible for communicating with internal and external audit departments and integrating the audit resources of internal and external audits. In this way, the effectiveness of the company's internal controls and the reliability of financial reports can be evaluated independently, impartially and effectively, and reported to the board of directors and the shareholders meeting. It was established in this way to increase the quality and reliability of the financial information used by the board of directors and the financial statements issued by the company. Harvey continued to say to Zhou. After listening to so much talk from several people, Zhou also sorted out his thoughts. That is, it is easy to say, but sometimes it is not easy. But it is not too complicated inside Apple. Even if it is really complicated, there is always someone to help him. Sometimes it is not his turn to take care of it. Just like what you said just now, this position does not have many holidays and things to do. They are the financial director, the head of internal audit, and the representative of external audit should usually attend the meeting. And other board members can also decide whether to attend. At that time, no matter what, the committee and the external auditors should meet at least once a year in the absence of the executive director to discuss some small secrets known to only a few people. It is also a secret of several people. I guess there are no idea how many spies there are. If he thinks something is necessary, he will tell Jobs. Now he has traveled back and intervened in Apple. Otherwise, who knows what someone told Jobs at this time, but he didn't say it. The consequences would be unimaginable. Zhou thought secretly. After chatting for a while, the few people had already walked to the building of Apple's headquarters. After putting up the identification, Zhou and several others walked in simply. The company's receptionist also saw Zhou and quickly stood up to greet him. The company had issued a notice, and they had all written down the photos of Zhou and several board members. It would never happen that the directors came and they didn't recognize them. "Hello, Mr. Zhou," the girl said sweetly to Zhou. She was a blonde girl with blue eyes. Zhou was furious when he saw her. As expected, she was the receptionist of a large international company. Her taste and appearance made her an extraordinary person. "Please come this way. The meeting is about to start. Almost all the senior executives in the company have arrived. They are already sitting in the meeting room," the girl said with a smile and pointed her perky buttocks at Zhou and walked in front to lead the way. Chapter 363 Art Levinson. "What a nice ass, but I'm going to Apple now. Is it considered eating grass in the backyard?" Zhou still doubted it for a while, but now the business is important, so he put these questions behind his mind. Walking into the conference room, there are already quite a few people sitting inside. Today, all the members of Jobs' small board of directors have come, and if Zhou is the last one, it's all. Some of the other people are senior executives of the company, even Mark Cooper, who is expected to succeed Jobs and serve as the chairman of the board of directors of the company in the future. Zhou also saw. He can also call out some of the other people's names. After looking around, Zhou found that it seems that no one in the room is under 30 years old. One by one, they are either fat or bald, or like Jobs, they are thin and sick. Another most obvious feature is that most of these people have white hair, which looks like they all have some. "Hey, hello." Everyone looks very energetic. Zhou didn't know what to say, so he just said something casually. In fact, how could he know that it was not yet time for him to appear, and there was someone waiting for him outside? Who knew that this guy just chatted with the girl for a few words, and Zhou walked fast. After he walked into the door and looked around, this guy finally reacted. Unfortunately, it was absolutely too late at this time. This guy immediately stood behind Zhou at the door with a bit of resentment. Jobs didn't say anything just now, but now he could see the matter at a glance. It was obvious that there was something wrong with his assistant. He didn't do the work he asked. He glared at him with great power. After seeing his neck shrink, his bad mood also improved a little bit. "Jess, I didn't expect you to come so unexpectedly, but it doesn't matter. Life is always unexpected, isn't it?" Jobs didn't have any embarrassed expression. Instead, he stood up and said to Zhou with a strong aura. Then he walked out of his position again, walked towards Zhou's position, and also looked at the people inside the company. He walked to JC Chow, patted him on the shoulder and said, "What a young and strong guy. It's a great thing to have you join the company's board of directors." "Haha, I think so. At least I can lower the average age of our company's senior executives." JC Chow also said humorously to Jobs. Jobs was stunned for a moment and then reacted. He immediately laughed. The other people sitting there also heard the conversation, looked at each other, and laughed. Haha. Jess, you are very humorous, Jobs said to him, and then began to say to the people sitting there, everyone, today I want to introduce you to our new member of the board of directors, Jess Chow. I think his arrival will be a good thing. At least when we have a meeting, we can all feel a lot younger. Haha. Steve, don't you think that looking at Zhou makes me feel that I'm very old? Art Levinson said with a smile. His slightly chubby face looks very kind. When he smiles with a pair of glasses, he actually has a small dimple, which makes him look more like a comedian. Art, I don't remember you being such an unconfident person. Well, if you feel that you are old, then I suggest that you spend a few hours every day to exercise well and lose your belly. Then you will probably look much younger. Jobs said. I think I'm pretty good like this. Art Levinson said. Okay. The first thing we need to do now is to welcome our Jess, instead of talking nonsense with you here. Jobs stopped joking with Art Levinson. He just said that to liven up the atmosphere. It made JC Chow, who just came in with a little surprise, not nervous, and it also made the office look less serious and dull. Then, Jobs looked at JC Chow first, and then said, let's welcome our new partner, Jess Chow, with applause. After Jobs finished speaking, he took the lead in clapping. After a small welcome ceremony, JC Chow also took his seat. The secretary next to Jobs took a document and showed it to JC Chow. These were some data given by the company's financial and accountant. Every director who was present also had one, but Zhou Jixi had just arrived and couldn't get into the right state right away. After flipping through it a few times casually, he stopped reading it and listened to the report made by the company's executives. The lights in the conference room dimmed, and the slides were opened. The executive who was making the report stood in front and talked. Feeling a little bored, Art Levinson was next to Zhou Jixi, watching Zhou Jixi's eyes moving around, and he was holding a pen in his hand and playing with various tricks. He was also attracted by Zhou Jixi's movements at first, so he spoke to him. Oh. Zhou Jixi looked at this somewhat kind businessman. In fact, he had met Art twice. He had exchanged a few words with him at the last auction. Both parties had no bad feelings towards each other, but they didn't have much friendship. Zhou Jixi smiled, but he didn't stop the movement of his hands. He looked at Art Levinson and said, indeed, I don't know where to start. I decided to look at it slowly when I go back. There's nothing good to hear now. Although Art Levinson looked at Zhou Jixi, he would still glance at Zhou Jixi's hands from time to time, watching him play with the pen. He felt it was amazing that he could play so many tricks without even looking at it. It seems that you must have held a lot of meetings. I can see how bored you are from your hands. Zhou Jixi smiled dumbly and explained casually, it's because I have too many meetings from time to time, but I'm learning Kung Fu, so the control of my body will be more accurate and easier. Kung Fu. He was immediately interested when he said this, because he used to like Bruce Lee so much. At that time, he suddenly wanted to learn martial arts, but he didn't have enough time to realize it. Later, he gradually realized the reality, so he gave up the idea of learning martial arts and worked harder on work and research. Yes. Zhou Jixi was also excited when he said this and twisted his, but to make his body closer to Art Levinson. Let me tell you, when I was living in Four Seasons Hotel some time ago, I saw a very magical scene. Do you think this is an unexpected scene? My god, it's so shocking. Zhou Jixi told him about the situation he saw the old lady that day. It's such a magical scene. I'm still asking the master how she did it, but she always says that I can do it one day. Art Levinson's eyes lit up as he listened. Oh my god, is this true? But when he saw Zhou Jixi's somewhat unswerving eyes, he knew that he had misunderstood a little. He quickly said, Jess, I'm not doubting what you said, it's just that this is really amazing. I really want to see that scene. It really exceeds the limit of the human body. As expected, the ancient East is always full of magic. Zhou Jixi smiled complacently. Of course, this is absolutely true. The police over there all know about this kind of thing. I think they are all amazed. Oh my god, Jess, you are really a lucky person. You can actually invite such a magical old lady to your home. I really don't know if I have the honor to visit you once. Art Levinson said with envy. In fact, how could he have such a big reaction, just for a matter of kung fu? Kung fu may be a reason, but that is definitely not all. The main reason is that Zhou Jixi is now one of the 3 members of the Audit and Finance Committee. If he is on good terms with Zhou Jixi, it will make the team more harmonious. Of course, it is also right to win over Zhou Jixi. Levinson succeeded as CEO of Gene Technology in 1995, and the company's situation was very bad at that time. The former CEO of the company was expelled due to financial problems, and the major shareholder, Swiss Roche, took advantage of the situation and sold 42% of its shares to accumulate wealth. Arthur Levinson, who was appointed in a critical situation, was not favored by many people in the company. The morale of the employees was low, and many people were not optimistic about this genetic technology company founded by a scientist. For genetic technology companies, this is really not a prosperous moment. However, for Arthur Levinson, who has always pursued freedom, this is a good development opportunity. The company's changes set upper and lower limits for its stocks in the next 5 years. He no longer has to worry about the stock price and can focus on product research and development. He has extraordinary freedom to reorganize the company's product line. For a CEO who was born as a scientist, this is a kind of joy that is difficult to experience. This is an alternative move against the current and the usual business philosophy. Arthur Levinson's approach was not understood at first, but Levinson, with his alternative determination, extraordinary determination and composure, finally proved the success of his innovative concept. Zhou Jixi's mind suddenly emerged with the information of the man next to him. I have read a lot of information about people recently. Although his brain is pretty good now, it is not a computer. He can save whatever he wants, and can also retrieve it when he can't remember it. Chapter 364. Arthur Levinson, who was appointed in a time of crisis, was not favored by many people in the company. The morale of the employees was low, and many people were not optimistic about this genetic technology company founded by a scientist. For the genetic technology company, this was not a prosperous moment. However, for Arthur Levinson, who always pursued freedom, this was a good development opportunity. The company's changes set upper and lower limits for its stock in the next 5 years. He no longer had to worry about the stock price and could focus on product research and development. He had extraordinary freedom to reorganize the company's product line. For a CEO who was born as a scientist, this was a kind of joy that was difficult to experience. This was an alternative move against the current and the usual business philosophy. Arthur Levinson's approach was not understood at first, but Levinson, with his alternative determination, extraordinary determination and composure, finally proved the success of his innovative concept. Zhou Jixi's mind suddenly emerged with the information of the man next to him. Recently, I have read a lot of information about people. Although his brain is good now, he is not a computer. You can save whatever you want, and you can retrieve it when you don't remember it. But he has something more powerful than this. That is the space and the goblins in the space. As long as Zhou Jixi's consciousness is in the space, he can browse the information of the people stored in it at will. So seeing that the person in front of him can chat with him, he read the information again, hoping to get closer to him. He immediately felt a little impressed by him. Looking at him like this, you can't tell that this guy is so powerful, but the facts are in front of him. Zhou Jixi still believes in this baby-faced scientist CEO. The company where Art Levinson works, under the guidance of this innovative concept, the gene technology company has successfully developed a series of products. One of the typical successful cases is Herceptin. This is a drug developed only for breast cancer with excessive production of the HER2 gene. HER2 gene breast cancer patients only account for 14% of the total number of breast cancer patients. The market for Herceptin was not pleasant from the beginning, but after it was put on the market, its efficacy was quite significant. In 2003 alone, the sales of Herceptin alone reached $425 million. Seeing this, he felt that this was indeed a good job to make money. Zhou Jixi was a little impressed by this chubby guy. Now, he made Zhou Jixi feel that he was almost synonymous with success. At least he had done well before Zhou Jixi was reborn, and later he became the chairman of the joint board of directors. Moreover, Levinson's nature as a scientist determined that he would stick to the alternative-free attitude and spirit of research even in the complicated business tide. Always insist on respecting the essence of science and technology, and always believe that science and technology are the root of success. It is this concept that allowed him to lead genetic technology through the fog, dispel the haze, and embark on a road of vigorous development. His business philosophy was highly respected and praised by Apple CEO Steve Jobs, and Levinson was therefore regarded as a mentor and friend by Jobs. Seeing this, Zhou realized why the two people chatted so casually. It turned out that there was this layer of relationship. The two had a very good personal relationship. After reading the information, Zhou was more interested in the person in front of him. Maybe he could learn from him in some aspects, do the same research as him, and then start to put it on the market after researching something. And he is also one of the developers of these products. Zhou thought about it and realized that he could do the same. He could also take out some strange plants in his hands and use this method to say that he researched them. But before that, there must be a reason that people can believe. Yes, you are a person with low education. How can you research such a magical plant? If it is an accident, then it is impossible to keep on being an accident. He can't just take one or two plants, strange or weird trees or something. It sounds a bit like Sonkeo's Huashigang. Of course, Zhou said to Art Levinson, I absolutely welcome you to my home as a guest. Oh, that's great. Art Levinson said happily. At this time, the two people were whispering to each other, and many people looked over, but they just glanced and stopped looking. In addition to being impressed by the fact that they were able to communicate so quickly, they were also impressed by their serious work spirit. As for whispering and so on, this is normal. There are many people around who are doing the same, communicating with each other in 2s and 3s looking at documents. It's almost the same as Zhou and Art Levinson. Jess, you have been learning Kung Fu for so long. Do you think you have learned anything? I really haven't learned much, but the master asked me to practice more. I have some small results recently, but compared to my master, I feel that I'm still far behind. Wow, I really want to see what kind of Kung Fu that is when I have time. Jobs looked at Art Levinson and expressed his satisfaction with him. Being able to have a better relationship with Zhou was something that had already been taken into consideration in future plans. And Art did a great job at this time. Okay, Mr. Levinson, time is always like a woman's cleavage. You just have to squeeze, and you'll always have some. Zhou said with a smile. Oh. Ha 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 ha. Art laughed. Jess, you are such a humorous person. Thank you for the compliment. Zhou said shamelessly. Then he said to Art Levinson, I'm going to hold a small auction soon. I think it will be very lively. If you are free, you can go and have a look. Zhou took out an invitation and gave it to him. Art was also very happy to take the invitation and said happily, I think I'll go. After coming out of Apple, Zhou took a deep breath. It was a good thing that someone had chatted with him just now, otherwise he would have been bored to death. But it was also because of this that Zhou became friends with Art Levinson, and they were pretty good friends. Just now, when he was inside, a few people Zhou had known for a long time came over to say hello to him. After a few words, they decided to throw him a small party to celebrate Zhou joining the board of directors. Zhou couldn't refuse these people's goodwill, so he smiled and agreed. Chapter 365. Not bad, not bad. Zhou didn't stay in San Francisco for long. He didn't even go to the game company to take a look, which made Zhou roll his eyes. What kind of person is this? He didn't even go to his own company. Zhou insisted that he wanted to visit her home, and it was inconvenient to bring his daughter with him now. When someone comes to the house, NIU won't pester him so much, then he can go and see. Andy is doing well now, isn't she? Zhou could only be speechless about this. Zhou returned to the hotel and saw that NIU had woken up, but she didn't cry. She sat on the bed very obediently, watching the cartoons on the American TV. He gave Kyo a look, indicating that he should come over and chat for a few words to see what the girl was like. Kyo sat not far from NIU, where he could see the door and window. His career was relatively good, and he could also prevent any danger at any time. Kyo secretly glanced at Niu, and then used a lurking movement to quickly approach Zhao Jix's side, but Niu didn't notice it at all. Zhao Jixi was stunned. This guy seems to be awesome, but the technology used to attack people is now used to avoid children? Is this guy a nanny agent? Or an all-round bodyguard? Boss. Kyo reported to Zhao Jixi as soon as he arrived. Zhao Jixi was a little nervous because of his actions. He also became a little curious. He looked around and whispered, "Got it. What's the situation here? Are there any unusual movements of the enemy? Or is there an ambush?" Kyo couldn't help but roll his eyes when he saw Zhao Jixi's situation. His boss was really unreliable sometimes. "Don't worry, boss. Niu is very well behaved after waking up. After I translated your work to her on my mobile phone, she went to watch TV obediently." Zhao Jixi breathed a sigh of relief. "I didn't expect that this girl was still very well behaved when I was not around. Much better than when I was a child. In fact, the girl is very well behaved when he is around, but Zhao Jixi sometimes lacks patience and is a little impatient about certain things, so he thinks Niu has a little temper." "Oh, that's good, that's good," Zhao Jixi said, and he felt that his back had become stiffer. He was not like when he just came back, and he actually felt a little guilty. "What are you doing? The enemy army and so on. She is your daughter, okay? I have never seen you act like a father." Zhou came with Zhao Jixi. When he came in, he saw Zhao Jixi and his bodyguard, as if they were acting in a drama. After listening to a few words, he realized that this kid was actually a little guilty. When she heard him talking about his daughter, it seemed like she talked about her parents when she was a child, and she even had to explore the enemy's situation. She was really speechless. Is she his daughter or his mother? Zhao Jixi couldn't help but touch the back of his head and laughed happily. Alright, I've seen through your trick a long time ago, and I'm telling you, can't you change it? You don't get tired of this trick forever, but I get tired of it after seeing it for a long time. Okay. Zhou said a few words in a sincere and speechless manner. "It's okay. I think this image is the most suitable for me. A sunny boy and a simple and honest man. Just think about how attractive it is to those girls. How old is your child? You are still thinking about this? I'm really speechless with you." Zhou rolled her eyes and said, since she came in, she didn't know how many times she rolled her eyes. "It's just an accident. I never thought there would be a child." At this point, Zhou suddenly got excited. He gently poked Zhao Jixi and said ambiguously, "Hey, to be honest, you were really amazing when you were young. You could even hit the target with one shot when you were drunk. TSK. You are really gifted. Extraordinary." Zhao Jixi was embarrassed. You are a woman and you are still talking to me about this. Really?" He was a little incoherent. I know. It's not okay for me not to say it. Zhou looked at Zhao Jixi with a rather regretful look. "I really don't know what to say to you." "Me? What else can you say to me?" I was also surprised. "Okay. I was only a teenager at that time, and I was drunk. I knew that my brother would suffer a loss, and this woman even lost her daughter in the end." Zhao Jixi thought that he felt wronged at first, but then he got a little angry. That woman, who I don't know who she is, it would be fine if he didn't want to do that, but if she didn't want to raise a child, then why did she give birth to her? In the end, if the child hadn't met a kind old man, I don't know how she would live in the future. If she was sold to a trafficker, it would be fine if the family was good, but if she was sold to a mountainous area as a child bride, wouldn't she be unlucky? Or if she was met by a beggar leader, the consequences would be unimaginable, and I don't know how he would be dealt with. Zhao Jixi, who had read some reports, felt a little chilling when he imagined it, and he was also scared. Fortunately, heavy days are always short. Niu is lucky in this life and met Zhao Jixi, a father, and Zhao Jixi is also lucky to meet his daughter. Fate has to be said to be a wonderful thing. In the previous life, the two obviously didn't have that fate. I don't know how this little girl lived. Fortunately, Kyo's Chinese is not very good, and the two of them chatted very fast, so he heard a little bit, but it was also very funny. He had been speechless for a long time with such a boss. When Zhao Jixi walked into the bedroom, he did not hide any sound. So when Niu heard the sound, she looked back and saw Zhao Jixi immediately. There was a light of surprise in her eyes, and her face was like a flower blooming. Dad, you are back. That's great. Niu missed you so much. The little girl jumped in surprise and ran to Zhao Jixi. When Niu ran over, he immediately hugged her, threw the child like a rocket into the air, and caught it again in an instant. Do you miss daddy? Niu said in a crisp voice. I miss daddy so much. Well, Niu is the best. Uncle Kao said today that you got up by yourself when daddy was not around, and you didn't cry, and watched TV obediently here. Zhao Jixi said to his daughter with a smile. Well, Niu knows that daddy has to work hard to make money, otherwise we will have no money to eat. So Niu must be very good, so that daddy will not be reluctant. Zhao Jixi listened to the child's words at first, and felt that his daughter was indeed the most caring little cotton padded jacket for her father. But after hearing what the child finished speaking, he was silent unconsciously, and felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. How could daddy not want Niu? Niu is daddy's little baby. Daddy will definitely earn money to buy delicious food for Niu. The little girl kissed Zhao Jixi after hearing this. Well, daddy is the best. Haha. Of course, who am I? I'm your daddy Zhao Jixi. He hugged the child and laughed. Zhao Ji, who was far away, couldn't help rolling his eyes again after hearing this. It made him feel that today was really a bit strange. If you keep rolling like this, you will get forehead wrinkles. Zhao Jixi then asked his daughter, but, who is better, dad or Grandpa Li? The little girl looked up, as if she was thinking about something, and she kept humming without saying anything. After a while, she opened her mouth and said, Dad and Grandpa Li are both great. Well, after hearing this, what else could Zhao Jixi say? After all, the little girl was raised by that old man, and it was already very good for her to be on par with him. Well, Niu is such a good child. Come and see what gift dad bought you today. Zhao Jixi put the child down as he spoke, and quickly walked a few steps to take out the Barbie doll set he had just bought outside. Damn, this thing cost him more than $300, and when he bought it, there were only a few little figures with different wigs and clothes. Zhao Jixi was unlucky to buy the best ones, fearing that the child would not be able to play with them, so he just bought one that looked good, and it was the one recommended by the boss with a good figure. The little girl saw the Barbie box in Zhao Jixi's hand, and was obviously stunned for a moment. It seemed that she had never played with this thing. When she followed her grandfather to pick up garbage before, she saw one or two doll heads that were almost dismembered. But at that time, this kind of toy was mostly covered with mud. It looked terribly dirty, but I thought it was quite fun at the time, so I took it out and played with it for a while. But soon the old man slapped it away, saying that it was very dirty and could not be taken home to play. At that time, Niu still had the habit of sticking out her fingers, so the old man would put a glove on her every time he went out, so that she wouldn't put her dirty hands in her mouth. And the broken doll, looking at the head of this thing, the old man felt uncomfortable. He had chopped off people's heads during the war, and that thing had bled dry, and it was actually not much different from this one. So of course he couldn't agree to Niu taking it home to play. Now when the child saw this thing, which was still a complete set, he was stunned at first, but he was very surprised in his heart. Ah. Thank you, Dad. Wow, this doll is beautiful, much cleaner than the one I picked up before, and it still has a body, and so many beautiful clothes. It's so beautiful. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 366, Zhao Ji's nagging. Inside the ambassador suite of the hotel, outside Zhao Jixi's bedroom, the two of them could clearly feel a kind of fatherly love. Even Zhao Ji saw that Zhao Jixi, who was a little unreliable, would change so much after meeting this daughter. He couldn't help but sigh that the gains and losses in life are sometimes so wonderful. Niu ran over and kissed Zhao Jixi first, and then took the Barbie doll in her hands. She didn't open the box, but kept looking at it in her hand. It felt like those stars were flashing in her eyes. Seeing his daughter's happy smile, Zhao Jixi felt a burst of satisfaction in his heart. After his daughter was happy, he actually felt very happy. It seems that this is the feeling of being a father, he said to himself secretly. At night, at Zhaoji's parents' home, Zhao Jixi was actually a little embarrassed to see the old man. Last time, he was drunk and called others brothers and sisters. When he woke up, he looked at Zhaoji's face all day. If you want to say something to her, she will tell you, "I'm your niece, how dare I?" But if you are mean to her, it will be even more unlucky. You keep saying, "We are all your nieces, how can you be so cruel to your brother's daughter? Don't you worry about letting your brother down." Zhao Jixi could only be speechless. As a result, he bought a lot of gifts and gave her a credit card directly. After swiping it a few times, the old sister's anger was finally gone. There was a reason for this trip. He accidentally knew that Zhaoji's father taught at Stanford University in the United States. So he wanted to visit here to see if he could go through the back door and enter Stanford directly and as a graduate student. Of course, he knew that it was obviously unrealistic to rely on Zhao's father to go through the back door. People don't have that much power, but he just wanted to understand the doorway. And the main thing is that Stanford is a private university and some things here are much easier to operate than public universities. "Boss, why do you suddenly want to go back to the furnace again?" Zhaoji couldn't help asking Zhao Jixi on the way. She was really curious about this matter. However, before Zhao Jixi could say anything, she immediately seemed to have transformed into the Emperor of Truth. "Oh, I know, you don't want to go in and pick up girls? What are you thinking about? I'm not that bored. I really want to go in and study. And I'm not a person who doesn't learn a lot. I have a strong interest in biology. I have studied this field for a long time on my own. Now I just want to study it systematically. Plus Stanford is close to my home, and biology is ranked first among American universities. This is why I want to study there." Zixu said a few words seriously and then said to Zhaoji helplessly, "Am I only able to pick up girls? Really? Am I that kind of person in your eyes? Really?" Zixu looked at Zhao Jixi quite seriously and said, then after seeing his depressed expression, he immediately laughed. "Just kidding. I'm happy that you have this idea and interest. This is true." Zhaoji said very seriously. Don't make that expression. Your sister and I are good friends, and I know your parents too. When you came to the United States alone, your sister called me and asked me to take good care of you and keep an eye on you. Who would have thought that you actually asked me out to tell me that you were going to inherit a fortune? I thought you were joking at the time, but what happened next almost made me think you were crazy until the final signature and you got the property. I felt like I was going crazy during the whole process, but you were still able to eat and drink. But the fact that you started to spend money recklessly after having a lot of money really worries me. There is no shortage of people who suddenly became rich in the United States and the world, but these people may have a wonderful life for a while, but they often don't have a good ending. In the end, they either die or are no different from death. I was wondering, the way you looked at me at that time was a little strange. It turns out that you were thinking about this. How about it? I didn't disappoint you." Zhao Jixi saw that what she said seemed a little heavy, so he said a few words to adjust the atmosphere. He knew that Zhaoji was under a lot of pressure at the beginning. She completely put herself into the role of a sister and was very caring towards Zhao Jixi. In this foreign country, Zhao Jixi was very touched to have such a person who treated you like a family member, so he trusted Zhaoji very much. This time, Zhaoji and Zhao Jixi were not a boss and an employee at all, but a sister and a brother talking. Zhaoji didn't hesitate and gave Zhao Jixi a slap on the spot. "Shut up, I'm talking, and you can wait and see what you want to say." Zhao Jixi pretended to be wronged and said, "Okay, you go on. But you spent money and bought stocks, and finally bought more and more, even mortgaged those real estates, and borrowed more than 10 billion from the bank. I almost thought that this kid was crazy. Oh my god, and you didn't let me tell anyone about this matter. That feeling was really bad." At that time, I thought you just came to the United States for a tour, spent all the money, and then went back to China. But, the Facebook you invested in is doing better and better now, and Apple's stock is also rising. And your later games are also doing very well now. I have almost nothing to say about these. I can only sigh that you are a diamond that has not been polished yet. Now that you have been polished, you begin to shine. But you have made so much money, I almost don't know what you will do in the future. You are completely aimless in life, and you don't need any goals. This money is almost enough for you to live for several lifetimes. I thought you would either go out to play or something in the future, but I didn't expect you to go for further studies. And you have taught yourself some biology and want to develop in this area. This really makes me happy and excited. People should have dreams and goals. I used to worry about you, but now I feel relieved to hear you say this. It's really gratifying that you can think about your goals and move forward clearly and not be blinded by the money and lose sight of the distance. Zhou talked a lot, and I don't know if it was the time that he would become so naive. Zhou never expected this, but he was very moved to hear these words. He didn't expect that when he came downstairs, he was still the child. That made people worry, but now Zhou thinks he has finally grown up. Chapter 367 Going to College. After he finished chatting with Zhou in the evening, Zhou took Niu and Kyo to visit Zhou's parents' home. Kyo, you don't have to be polite. Come, this is the rice wine I brewed myself. The taste is very mellow. Try it. Zhou's father poured a glass of rice wine for Kyo, who was sitting next to him with enthusiasm. Thank you, I will try it. Kyo at the table couldn't resist the persuasion of Zhou and the Zhou family, so he sat down and drank some wine. At this time, he was embarrassed to refuse the enthusiastic Zhou father. The taste may be a little strange at the beginning. You will feel much better after drinking a few more sips. Zhou also said to Kyo next to him. The three big men at the table started drinking. After drinking more than 30 glasses of wine and 5 flavors of food, several people were a little smoked, and each of them was a little red. Kyo's alcohol tolerance is not bad. He drank a lot of this kind of rice wine, but he was still in good spirits and his thinking was also normal. Niu had already given it to Zhou and Zhou's mother at this time. He took her to the room to play. Zhou lived here when she was a child, and some of her toys were left here. The little girl was also well behaved. Seeing her father drinking with her uncle and grandfather, she went to play in the room. After finishing her meal, Zhou, tell me what you want to ask me when you come here. I asked you when we were having dinner just now, but you didn't tell me. Now we have finished eating, tell me. Zhou's father was about to light a cigarette and said to Zhou, old Zhou has been in the United States for some years and he can't quit smoking. Seeing that Zhou's father was about to light a cigarette, Zhou didn't answer him, but quickly took out the medicinal cigarette made by the fairy in his own space. Uncle, smoke this one of mine. I made this one at home. It is not only comfortable to smoke, but also harmless, and can clear the lungs. Old Zhou looked at the cigarette Zhou handed over with a little surprise. It was a white stick-shaped cigarette without any label. He took one, and put it under his nose to smell it. He immediately felt like a breath of fresh air was inhaled into his nose. Well, this smell is strange, but it smells very comfortable. Zhou commented, and then he also wanted to give it a try, so he lit one to see how it tasted. He knew Zhou's character, so he didn't doubt that this homemade cigarette was added with something. That is, the so-called marijuana or other things. After Zhou lit it, he then inhaled it, and after brewing it in his mouth for a while, he slowly exhaled. The smoke floated in the air, and people could smell it not only without pungent smell, but also faintly smelled a medicinal fragrance, but they couldn't tell what kind of medicinal fragrance it was. Kyo smelled it, and it didn't make people feel uncomfortable like inhaling secondhand smoke. Faintly, he also wanted to inhale more of the exhaled gas to feel more comfortable. Zhou looked at Kyo and smiled complacently. Haha. Kyo, you should try this thing too. It's very refreshing. I added a lot of precious herbs to it. The most important thing is that according to my formula, this thing is completely harmless to the body and can also clear the waste gas in the lungs. Oh. Kyo was also a little surprised, but the smell of the second-hand smoke just now made him feel a little comfortable, which made him believe what Zhao Jixi said. He took the medicinal cigarette from Zhao Jixi and picked up Zhao's lighter to light it up. Old Zhao had already taken his second puff at this time, and after he exhaled, he said to Zhao Jixi, "What a good stuff, it's really good stuff." When I inhaled it into my lungs and exhaled it, I felt as if my lungs became much more comfortable, and even my nose felt much more comfortable. After years of smoking, I would cough, but surprisingly, I didn't cough anymore. Uncle Zhao, I'm not bragging. I've been tinkering with this for quite a while. I don't know how many ancient books I've read. Later, I got some information from an ancient Taoist book about the Tao of alchemy. I combined the experience from other books I read with my little knowledge of herbal medicine. Haha. I finally made this good stuff. Zhao Jixi also lit up one for himself, took a puff and said, "It's just that the cost is a bit high, and there can't be any mistakes in the production. I have to be very accurate in every step, so that the medicinal effects can be compatible together." Old Zhao listened to Zhao Jixi's words, and nodded his head. After listening to a few words, he couldn't help but sigh and said, "Really, it's a magical thing. But the things made with such trouble are extraordinary. Our nation has a history of more than 5,000 years, and the things created are indeed full of magic. The wisdom of our ancestors is beyond our imagination." Yes. Zhao Jixi also nodded and said, "Otherwise, the taste will not be the same. Think about it, I followed the formula in the ancient books, but there was one less medicinal material. I used other medicinal materials with similar properties instead. The taste was right, but I almost coughed to death after taking a puff. In the end, my lungs and throat still had a strange itch, a little bit of pricking and fishy, and it was so sad." Zhao Jixi said that he looked a little bit reluctant to look back. Then Zhao Jixi followed Zhao's father, that is, Old Zhao, and talked about some ancient books and the history of the Celestial Empire. Old Zhao had heard from his daughter that his boss suddenly had an idea to worship a master who was a strange man, and it was said that he was a figure like Huang Fihang. Not only is he proficient in boxing and kicking, but he is also very good at medicine. Looking at Zhao Jixi like this, he believes it. It is not something that ordinary people can do to train Zhao Jixi, who is unlearned and unskilled, to be so powerful in such a short time. Well, after some explanations from Zhao Zhao knew that Zhao Jixi was not bad, but he was a little unlearned and unskilled, wasting his youth and time in vain. Although he has a good vision in investment, Zhao is a cultured person. Although he does not regard money as dirt, he will not have much good feelings for those vampires on Wall Street. It is said that Zhao seemed to have experienced investment failures, which allowed him to concentrate on studying. He is a professor who studies languages, and is proficient in many languages, as well as some ancient languages and characters. The most important thing is that he teaches at Stanford, and has been there for decades. He is almost a local snake in Stanford. This is a metaphor secretly made by Zhao Jixi himself. He dare not speak his thoughts to Zhao or Zhao, that would be asking for trouble. Zhao, I never knew you knew so much knowledge at such a young age. You can speak 4 languages alone, and you have also learned other things. I really underestimated you before. I have to apologize. Zhao spoke without any scruples, and directly expressed his previous impressions. This time he was brave enough to speak out. Zhao Jixi felt a little embarrassed. Although he knew a lot, he still needed the help of the goblins in the space. No, uncle, you are too kind. I really don't have anything to praise you for. It's just that I memorized a few more books, but I haven't been able to integrate them. It's really nothing. Zhao Jixi's words seemed very good, but it sounded a bit pretentious. It's just that he was really saying polite words at this time, and he didn't mean to pretend. You are being modest now, kid. Don't worry, I didn't make a mistake. Old Zhao smiled and patted his shoulder, saying no more. Tell me why you suddenly came to me. I asked Zhao, but she just didn't tell me. She said that I should talk to you. Well, don't blame Sister Zhao. This is what I told you. I'd better ask you about this matter in person. Zhao Jixi said to old Zhao. Oh, what did you ask, Zhao? Zhao Jixi took a sip of water and said, "It's like this, Uncle Zhao. I heard that you work at Stanford University last time. Well, I teach at Stanford, but my course is sometimes a little unpopular." Old Zhao said to several people with a bit of humor. But seeing that several people didn't laugh, I knew that I was not a humorous person. "Okay, go on." "It's like this. I have learned a lot of biology knowledge by myself, and now I want to go to Stanford to study systematically, and I want to ask you how to do it," Zhao Jixi said to him. Zhao's father was also surprised when he heard it. "Biology, you taught yourself?" "Well, yes. I learned a lot of Chinese medicine knowledge from my master, as well as the knowledge of drug identification and prescription. This also made me have a strong interest in these strange herbs and plants, as well as the magical effects of some parts of animals." Old Zhao nodded from time to time, and looked at Zhao Jixi with more and more liking. "Well, this kid is still a good person. He can still do this even if he has money. He is really a good guy." Not only did I read ancient books at home, I also started to learn the basics of biology, as well as some chemistry, physics, mathematics, etc., which are knowledge that can be applied. But what I learned is very general, and it can't reach any professional level at all. Zhao Jixi said this without lying, but there were some changes in the details. "Is that so, Zhao? Your desire to pursue progress is very good. You're asking how to get into school." Lao Zhao first praised Zhao Jixi, then asked another question. "Well, but I'm not going to college. I want to take the postgraduate entrance examination. I don't want to waste time going to college to get credits, and then slowly take the postgraduate entrance examination. It's really too much trouble. You can't even get into college now, and you're thinking about going to graduate school?" Chapter 368. Make up your mind. Let's wait for the results. Zhao Jixi wanted to say that he actually wanted to go directly to the doctoral program, and he would be a doctor after graduation. Fortunately, he did not aim too high, and chose to fast forward instead of doing it all at once. However, to be a doctor, you must first publish articles in several professional journals. Then it depends on your scientific research results. As long as you have papers and results, if you pass the doctoral assessment, he will be Dr. Zhao Jixi in the future. However, whether Stanford will provide him with the opportunity to study for a doctorate is still a question. The other thing is that you must first obtain a master's degree in graduate school, but this is related to another problem. If you want to obtain a master's degree, you must first have a bachelor's degree, that is, a graduate from a large university. This is also the reason why Zhao Jixi wants to go through the back door. If you don't go through the back door and think of a way, then things will not be so easy. Of course, Zhao Jixi has also thought about finding a second-rate school that can be recognized by international educational institutions and spending some money there to believe that getting a degree is not a problem. But if this is found out later, his face will obviously not look good. He has now been named on Apple's board of directors. In the future, as long as people find out that there is a young director in his 20s on the new board of directors, it will probably be a big deal. The news value of this matter is extraordinary. Reporting it will definitely be news that can help increase the sales of their own newspapers. At that time, it is estimated that a lot of things about Jay Chou's past can be dug out, and his stain on education issues is likely to be hyped up. According to the nature of the American media, if you don't hype up public figures, you really don't deserve his job. It is worth mentioning that Jay Chou, as a director of a listed company, is actually a public figure at this time. It's just that he has not yet fully entered the media's field of vision. It is definitely a matter of time before he doesn't take it. Jay Chou himself still loves those things that are a bit in the spotlight, especially being on TV. In his previous life, he always watched TV and envied the people in it. In this previous life, he could be on TV and it would definitely feel good. Well, Jay Chou found that the topic was a bit far away. In conclusion, Jay Chou actually doesn't object to being in the news or on the headlines. A man who loves to be in the limelight, as long as he is ready. Just wait for the whole world to welcome his sultry side. Think about the miserable man Wang in the previous life, and you will know how difficult it is to make the headlines. It is said that he later pushed Zhang Ziyi, who is now somewhat ambiguous with him, away. Jay Chou can only sigh that God is blind. Is the man who abandoned his wife and daughter also a man? When Jay Chou left the Zhou family with Kao and Niu, he felt full of satisfaction. As a private school, Stanford has a genius clause, which is the so-called special talent introduction clause. As long as Jay Chou proves that he has this talent, then it will not be a problem for him to go to Stanford. In fact, he thinks that his family is definitely talented. That is, they are rich, and among the young people, they are probably the richest. Isn't this a kind of talent? Of course, there is another way. There are many professors at Stanford who lack research funds. As long as Zhou Jixi is willing to spend money, I believe it is not a problem to ask a professor to take him to a doctoral degree. Leo Zhao is not opposed to this. You can go, but you have to write the doctoral assessment, thesis and magazine articles yourself. Stanford is not a place that is so easy to fool, and those professional magazines in the United States are not so easy to fool. Zhou Jixi thought about it and felt that we should do it both ways. He didn't know whether he was a genius, but with the help of space, it is still possible for him to become an artificial genius. As for spending money to get 1 or 2 professors, Zhou Jixi also thinks it is okay. The first thing is to find a project that you are interested in. After the professor or doctor, there is not enough research fund applied for, then he will take over the investment of this project, which is also a good choice. He has asked Leo Zhao for help with this matter, and asked Zhao Ji to help follow up, and just asked him to spend more time with his parents. This is what Zhao's father said to him when he left. There are thousands of professors at Stanford. Zhou Jixi didn't believe it would be so difficult to find such a person. Of course, he could find someone from outside, and then he could just enter Stanford, right? Stanford will never be satisfied with one person. People are often regretful when they are needed. I really need to form a professional team. It is obviously not enough to have only Harvey, David, Zhao Ji and others. A lawyer, an accountant, and a consultant. This may be enough for an ordinary rich man, but am I an ordinary rich man? Zhou Jixi asked himself. In fact, he already had the answer in his mind. Of course he is not an ordinary rich man. He has many plans to realize. Now he just lacks a springboard, but he can complete this springboard soon. Vertical bar as long as he goes to Stanford and starts to set up a laboratory, nothing will feel abnormal when it happens. Science is always full of surprises, isn't it? It is also possible that 1 or 2 research results that I feel are unexpected or puzzled will appear. Zhou Jixi secretly planned in his heart. In fact, he has been thinking about this for a long time, but there has never been a suitable opportunity to realize it. In addition, he has a bit of a German way of thinking, so this matter has been delayed. Until recently, he felt that he had a lot of treasures, but he still had to borrow money from the bank. Isn't this a bit too much for him? In addition, it would be of great benefit to him to take out a lot of things, so he would work hard now and go back to school for further studies. Zhao Ji didn't drink, so she was the one who sent them back. Zhou Jixi held Niu in the back seat. The little girl was a little tired, so she lay sideways in the car, resting her head on Zhou Jixi's legs. She was still holding the doll Zhao Ji gave her, fiddling with it. Kao was sitting in the front passenger seat. The alcohol was not a big problem for him. Now he was sitting in the front passenger seat and could look around energetically to prevent any accidents. Jess, I didn't expect you to think of going to school. This really surprised me. Zhao Ji looked back at Zhou Jixi and then hurriedly drove away. People always have to change a little. I can't just live like this. I'm still young and I have to find something to do. If I don't like it, I won't do it. But if I don't even have the courage to try, it's too wrong. Zhou Jixi said and looked at his daughter who was resting on his legs. Am I right, Niu? Yes, Dad is right. Niu didn't listen carefully to what they said. Zhou Jixi just asked her, and she answered. Puchy. Zhao Ji rolled his eyes at the two of them in the rearview mirror. You two really have a tacit understanding, but you can't stop being so pretentious when you talk in the future. Really? No, I was born to be a very pretentious existence now. You say I'm sorry for myself if I don't pretend to be pretentious. Laughing all the way, several people returned to the driver's hotel where they lived. The next day, Zhao Jixi said goodbye to Zhou, and he, Kyle and Niu flew back to Must City together. It has been several days since I went out, and I don't know how my family is now. Zhao Jixi suddenly missed the little things on the farm. Dad, how long will it take us to get home? Niu really wants to see what Dad's home looks like soon. The little girl always liked to look out the window along the way, and she was also very interested in the loess or desert hills on the American highway. Zhao Jixi was in the passenger seat, and Kyle was driving the car. He turned his head and reached out to pick up Niu. His raptor was famous for its large space. Niu only needed to bend down and shrink her body to be easily picked up by Zhao Jixi. Putting the child on his lap, Zhao Jixi said to her, "That is not Daddy's home, that is our home. Niu, you are also a member of that family, do you know?" The child nodded a little bit, but it was only for a moment, and there was no picture that Zhao Jixi imagined, which could still move people in a TV series. Niu happily shook Zhao Jixi's arm. That is also Niu's home. Ah. Niu will also have a father in the future. Niu wants to see what a room looks like. You silly girl. We are home now. Zhao Jixi smiled and looked at her with a loving face. Now they are already within the farm. At this time, as long as they enter the gate, they will be around the villa. Inside the villa, everyone was in a state of panic when they heard that Zhao Jixi was back. Xianshan left Mise's arms, holding a thumb monkey in her arms and fiddling with another on her head. The dogs at home didn't go out today, and now they followed Xianshan to the leisure corner in the house. Zhao Jixi could be seen through the doors and windows over there. 1K, uncle said they will be back today. Wow, I heard that they will bring a friend. I wonder who that sister is. Xianshan said to 1K, who was lying there with her. Woof woof, woof. 1K shouted at Xianshan with a heavy voice. No one knew what he was saying. If Zhao Jixi was there, he would probably think that he was saying that today's lunch was delicious. It seems that you also want to see that sister. 1K is the best. Xianshan smiled and hugged the furry 1K. Chapter 369 Niu Xianshan. Seiya had come to their side without knowing when. He was holding a peeled banana in his hand, and he was eating another banana. After eating, he could accurately throw the banana peel into the trash can next to him like a basketball. Seiya, I want to eat it too. Xianshan said to the gorilla behind him without even turning her head. Seiya seemed to be used to the sound of drinking. He broke off another banana, peeled it into 3 pieces, left the bottom part unpeeled, and handed it to Xianshan. Well, thank you Seiya. I'll give you barbecue tonight. But Seiya was not happy about this. He found that every time he ate something sweet, it was always very sour or very sweet, and the meat was covered with jam or meat sauce. Seiya didn't like these flavors very much, which was what the 3 stupid dogs on the ground ate. But he was also smart, and he never ate it in his mouth, and threw it to Wanfu and the others when she wasn't paying attention. Zhao Jixi's car drove into the gate. Niu looked at the door, and kept saying to him, "What a big door. What a big door. Is this our door, Dad?" Zhao Jixi was a little happy to see Niu change so quickly. "Yes, of course, this is our door. Wow, it's so big. It's much bigger than the door of Xiaopang's house. I must tell him, when I go back, that my door is much bigger than his." Niu said to Zhao Jixi excitedly. "Well, okay, you can tell Xiaopang when you go back." He looked at his daughter and said a little dotingly. Not long after, Zhao Jixi and others arrived at home. Niu looked at her big house with a happy face. It was much bigger than the village chief's house in the village. Xianshan saw that they came out with a little girl following behind them, and she was a little embarrassed. After dragging Seiya out, Xianshan felt a little embarrassed when she saw Niu who was so excited. "Dad, there are monkeys. Look, there are monkeys." Niu got out of the car and ran around, and then she saw Xianshan and Seiya coming out. Of course, compared to the monkey, Xianshan was automatically ignored. "Xianshan, Seiya, come here quickly." Zhao Jixi shouted to Xianshan who was timidly dragging her over there, and Seiya was dragging her and refused to let go. Otherwise he would have wanted to run to Zhao Jixi a long time ago. When the little girl heard Zhao Jixi's words, she happily pulled Seiya over. The afternoon sun in California was very soft. Zhao Jixi was bathed in the sun, watching his daughter and niece running, but there was a feeling of happiness in his heart. Uncle, you're back. Xian missed you so much. Xian ran over and hugged Zhao Jixi, who was squatting down, and Seiya misses uncle too. Right, monkey, she said, looking at Seiya behind her. Zhao Jixi thought that he should popularize education. Why are these two people calling monkeys? But seeing how happy his daughter and niece were, he didn't want to say anything more at this time. Yeah, uncle misses you too, Zhao Jixi said and kissed Xianshan. Then he ran over. But when he saw Xianshan, she was a little shy or something, and seemed a little afraid to come over. Then he shouted to his daughter, Niu, come here too. Although Zhao Jixi's arms can't run horses, they are not small. It's a piece of cake to pick up two children. He put the two little girls on his left and right arms, and made a seiyan behind his neck. Zhao Jixi felt that he was almost the same as the pagoda bearing heavenly king. You hold the pagoda, and I hold people. It seems to be related. Well, Zhao Jixi also felt that he had changed to taking medicine. Niu, this is your cousin Xianshan. You have to get along well with each other in the future, okay? Then he said to Xianshan, this is your uncle's child. She will be Xianshan's sister in the future. Xianshan has to get along well with Niu, okay? The two little girls on his arms looked at each other and were a little shy. These naughty kids didn't know what was wrong. Usually, people who didn't know each other could go up and play together, but now it's like this. I don't understand. With his help, the two children became even more shy, and Zhao Jixi himself didn't know what to do. Fortunately, the old lady came back at this time. Looking at her clothes, Zhao Jixi knew that she had just walked back from the greenhouse. There were actually a few people following behind, and almost all of them were the type that could run horses on their shoulders. A black man, two white people and a yellow-skinned person. Zhao Jixi looked at his temperament at this time, but he couldn't tell what his race was, but at least he could be sure that he should be Asian. Zhao Jixi put down the two girls and told them to play for a while he was going to see a few people. The person following him was probably the bodyguard that the old lady had found for Jay Chou. People in the distance also saw Jay Chou. Seeing him holding his daughter happily, they also had an inexplicable liking for him. They were all family-oriented people. They always had a special love for their children. No matter what they did outside, they could always find a warm harbor when they return home. This is also the reason why they don't want to be mercenaries anymore. No matter how much money they make, they have to be with their families, and it will be meaningful. Otherwise, what's the point of making money? And Jay Chou made a lot of money. If an ordinary doctoral graduate can find a good job, he can only get $70,000 to $100,000 a year with a fixed salary. Of course, if there are scientific research results or educational results, the bonus will be calculated separately. And Jay Chou can get more than 200,000 yuan. Compared with ordinary middle-class families, they have a high income, and they have a lot of holidays every year. Although there will be special recall clauses, I believe that this thing will not be used for a long time. Hey, Wu, look, that's our future boss. What do you think? The black man muttered to the Asian man next to him. I don't know, at least he looks good now, but he's young and rich, and he's not married yet. I believe he won't have a peaceful life in the future, said the Asian man. Oh, why? Because those girls will fall for him, either because of his money or because of his handsomeness. And we should be prepared to block people for the boss. The black man looked at the Asian man in confusion. But what trouble will this cause? Isn't that what a bodyguard does? Think about your wife, my brother. If you had a lot of feminine scent on you, I think your little brother would have to be careful, Wu said, and then looked at the black man's lower body strangely, and then continued. Have you seen the news recently? A man broke his little brother while having sex with his wife. Can you imagine the feeling of being firm and then broken by sitting on it? The black man suddenly looked a little scared. Brother, are you kidding me? Go watch the news yourself. I'm not talking like that. He walked forward a few steps and came to the old lady. Master. Update quickly, pure text, end of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.